efforts by McConnell there. He just throws one up in the air and is able to come up with that steal and topping back-to-back threes.
Nembhard has the ball, sends it right sideline to Halliburton. Out of the far corner, Neesmith goes back to Halliburton. Caruso stalking him on the right sideline. Here comes a long, long, long one from out beyond the hash mark. Halliburton's third three. Jalen Williams has his pass deflected. Halliburton steals it into the open floor. He got it to Siakam, who threw down the right-hand tomahawk. It's a 20-point lead. Down to 8 seconds to play. McConnell on the drive in the lane. Open man. And Toppin missed the three. Rebound punched outside. Shepard fires from the top. Good. He hit it, and that's going to count. He hit a three as time expired.
Care to chime in?
Can you believe that? He shot that ball.
We're still waiting.
Boom, baby.
There you go.
Boom, boom.
There you go.
The lead is 30. McConnell in business, moving it left to right, drives it hard to the right baseline, pulls up from there, and hits another short jump shot.
I need to tell you what, he's put it in another gear these last couple of games. He's played so well for the Pacers here.
We just wanted to protect home court. You know, we didn't want to see these guys celebrate a championship on our home floor, backs against the wall, and we just responded.
How were you able to just battle through it tonight?
It's the finals. It's the finals. Like, you know, all of us got to give everything we have.
This is what it's all about. This is what you dream about growing up, this kind of opportunity.
We believe, you know, we got a lot of faith in this group. So take care of our bodies, get ready, and Game 7 NBA Finals, what more can you ask for?
That's how we feel on a Victory Friday. Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the Fan Morning Show. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykman with a tremendous open. Again, I'm Jeff Rickard, returning from the grave to talk about Game 6 last night and get ready to go for Game 7. Kevin, was that to this point in time, the greatest Indiana Pacers game in recent memory, if not ever?
Yeah, hard to argue, Mark. Excellent work on that intro there. Pack the champagne up, and that flight ain't going to Cancun. It's going to Oklahoma City for the two best words in sports. And what an effort. Defensively, we talked about what wrinkles would there be, James Boyd. They definitely threw some different things at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and company. And Timothy John McConnell. I know that when you look at the final score, it looks ugly. Do not forget about what T.J. McConnell did in that second quarter to ignite things once again. And, boy, I don't know who gave Tyrese Halliburton a new calf, but I didn't seem to see too much favoring of that calf from the Pacers star. So this movie that has been the 24-25 Indiana Pacers has got one more scene in it. And I don't know how many movies have ever been shot in Oklahoma City, but nonetheless, we've got one coming up Sunday night.
James Boyd, you were there. The building electric, just full of gold T-shirts everywhere. Reggie Miller sitting courtside with a Jalen Rose jersey on. The NBA Inside Crew, whatever they call it on ESPN, eating their words at halftime. It was glorious. It was glorious.
Yeah, the Pacers played so well they healed you. I mean, you came back, you're back like MJ with your fax machine and all. So welcome back to the show. And I thought it was obviously a great environment. Got a little tense there early because I believe the Pacers fell behind 10-2, and you can feel some of that tension, some of that nervousness. And then from there on, they just dominated the game. I believe I looked up one time in the third quarter, 57 points for OKC. They could not get anything going. I think Andrew Nembhard perhaps plays the best defense on SGA in the NBA, and I mean that in all seriousness. He was fantastic. Aaron Neesmith on Jalen Williams was fantastic as well. So, like Kevin said, best two words in sports, Game 7, and anything can happen in a Game 7, and that is the excitement that you are kind of season if you're a Pacers fan.
What kind of intrinsic what's the right word I'm looking for? What was the lift that Tyrese Halliburton gave that team just by getting on the court, showing up and playing? And then once he kind of settled in after those first few minutes, it was off to the races. Did that have any kind of an emotional impact on the team to know that their guy was there no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's hard to measure it, but I would guess yes. You know, that was a question a few guys got asked post-game. And I don't know what you guys thought, but I didn't see anywhere near the laboring that I saw in the second half of Game 5. Honestly, you know, early on, he just missed. I thought he was getting to some spots. He just missed early. And I didn't think Carlisle treated his minutes any differently. Obviously, he didn't play in the fourth, which was great for the Pacers. But, if you look at that first quarter, the various times Carlisle put him back in at the end of the first quarter like he sometimes does to try to get a little offensive jolt there right before the end of the first. I thought one of the bigger keys was, and James, you and I talked about this throughout the week once the Halliburton injury became such a huge storyline. Can he be effective enough to where Oklahoma City has to maintain their defensive integrity on him? Like, if you look at last night, Andrew Nembhard got going early. TJ McConnell got going early. But with Halliburton still, for the most part, being acceptable is the word that comes to mind. I know it's not the right word, but he's out on the floor and he's not a liability. They had to keep Lou Dort on him. So that allowed Nembhard to do his thing. That allowed TJ McConnell to still have the advantageous matchups that he did. So, can you imagine at the start of the night saying Tyrese Halliburton's not going to play in the fourth quarter? You would have been like, oh boy.
That's not good.
How ugly did it look with that right calf? And instead, he's slapping dudes on the butt to go get in the game, and he's, trying not to crack a smile when James Johnson gets tossed.
Well, this was so in the wheelhouse of the identity that this Indiana Pacers team has. This is a team that was 10-15. We all know about that. And then you get down, you miss your first 8 shots, you're at home, you're down 3-2. And this team's like, don't worry about it. We got it. We got it, James. Don't worry about it. They just don't quit. They're the Terminator. They don't stop coming.
Yeah, I mean, they're a special team. They're a tough team. I do feel good that I think all of us picked at least 6 or 7 games for this series. I picked Thunder in 7, and I'm going to stick by that. People keep asking me, are you going to change? No, you cannot change your pick after you've made it. You got to live and die with the pick. But I did not think this was going to be a short series, and they've been validated because of it. And the crazy part is this final box score, to Kevin's point, will not show what TJ McConnell did for them, because I thought that, honestly, Tyrese was kind of bad to start the game. And I was thinking to myself, you're going to get this Tyrese where he's clanking shots and not really doing anything. Then where are you going to get some juice from? And I thought that TJ McConnell brought that. I mean, I don't know what's up with his jumper, and it'll never change, but the way he shoots from the three-point line and the free throw line is not what his form looks like on those pull-up fadeaway jumpers from like 10 to 12 feet.
He's in rhythm.
I don't know if it's not even a rhythm thing. He shoots the ball totally differently.
He's like at a 45-degree angle, bending backwards as he shoots it. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
But I watch him shoot threes, and I'm like, yuck. But the guy gets it done. He is the epitome of Indiana, I feel like, with the underdog narrative and the hard-nosed play. And there was a point in the third quarter where he checked in, and he's getting chants from the crowd.
That might have been the loudest roar of the whole night. There were about 7 different instances where I thought to myself, this is the loudest I've ever heard this arena. And McConnell entering the game to start the third quarter, James, was easily one of the loudest. Right up there with Shepard's shot, Siakam's dunk, Steven Jackson being shown on the Jumbotron. Like, all of these different moments.
Yeah.
And I think you are spot on. I encourage fans, you probably are amped up. If you want to go back and watch that game, go back and watch the start of the second quarter. It was still very much a game, 32-31. And if you remember, the first quarter was one of the weirder first quarters I've seen the Pacers play all season. Horrific start, horrific finish, and they had 1 million points in the middle 4 minutes. They went on a flurry there in those middle 4. They shot 10 free throws in the first quarter. When's the last time the Pacers have shot 10 free throws in an opening quarter?
In a half, maybe.
So you go to the second, the Thunder make a nice run. It's 32-31. And when your offense was kind of stagnant, it was McConnell as a scorer, getting you going, getting that lead. And when he is playing like that, no one can ignite a building better than him in terms of how the Pacers fan base just reacts to it. I'm glad we've properly mentioned him early on. And then I want to throw in the defensive effort. James, you and I, again, we said, do you go zone? What's left on the menu? What is the wrinkle you can go to? Well, the wrinkle was quite clear. We are going to not pick up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as full court as we have. We are going to double him when that dribble starts to get downhill. We're going to double Jalen Williams. And what was the recipe? The Thunder have played 103 basketball games this season, and that was the most turnovers they've had in a game all year long. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the most turnovers he's had in a game all year long. That was the wrinkle. We're going to double the MVP. We're going to double Jalen Williams. Let's make the others for Oklahoma City have to show up on the road. and they clearly did
Those
not.
guys stunk, to be quite honest. Chet Holmgren, 4 points. You're supposed to be the third guy. Lou Dort came into the game, I believe shooting like 58% from three throughout these finals, and I want to say he only made one last night, 1 of 5 from three-point land. So, again, if your season ends because one of those guys had a career night, obviously it would still hurt, but you might be able to swallow that a bit easier because you didn't let the top guys go off. But those guys did not show up, and you could tell with every clank that the crowd was getting more into it. And I thought at some point, it's going to break open. And I even thought that after a while, the Pacers start making almost every shot you kind of needed to keep them at bay and keep their kind of heart and spirit down. Because, for example, first of all, the dunk that Pascal Siakam had, good Lord. I know he went to school early on in life to be a priest, and he baptized Jalen Williams. I mean, my goodness. I was like, boy, yes, he got saved on that play. And then on top of that, into the first half, he hits the fadeaway turnaround at the buzzer. Into the third quarter, Ben Shepherd, off of offensive rebound, he hits the 3 at the buzzer. I mean, these are just plays that are going to help you win a game. And I figured, at some point when you get up by 20 plus, I didn't tweet it because people are going to kill me for, saying, oh, you're going to jinx us. I'm like, I'll save, my mentions. But when they got up by 20 plus and then they started the third quarter with both teams clanking shots, but no one scored for like 4 minutes, I was like, oh, this is over. Because you can play even for the rest of the way. And they could not make anything. I was like, okay, they got 3 stops in a row, didn't score, 4 stops, and they still couldn't score. So that is very concerning. And I mean, for the first time in this series, I thought that SGA looked human. He looked really bad. 8 turnovers is a lot of turnovers, and Andrew Nembhard was outstanding on him.
We're going to be with you all morning long. Your chance to sound off coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll do that several times. I just have to wonder, is that a TJ McConnell-inspired T-shirt you're wearing today?
No. Shout out to Courtney Blakely from the region. She went there for a couple years of college. I think she's back at Middle Tennessee State. We have a hoodie for them as well.
So I thought that was a TJ McConnell appreciation
T-shirt. No, I guess you could say it's TJ or Benedict Mathurin.
Subconsciously it was.
But no, it was very much a clean shirt, and I need to put something on and not come here nude.
It's a great shirt. Shout out Obi Toppin.
Wow.
He has easily been one of the best Pacer
He was shooting
players
that thing
all series long. And as we start to shift gears to, yes, indeed, one game for it all, if there is a Pacer player that has delivered down there this series, it's been Obi Toppin. And I think that deserves a mention. Outstanding performance from certainly a fan favorite. Obi Toppin, 20 points last night off the bench.
I should have down there, Kevin.
T-shirt.
Getting a little itchy and scratchy. Something might be happening.
Nobody was calling out the old Speedo for a jinx.
No.
Jeff, would you like to see it?
Yeah.
You're not wearing it, right?
Well,
we
got a long show.
You need to answer the question first.
Do you want to switch chairs this morning?
No. See how it plays out.
No, when you come back to the show, Jeff, you got to come back to the entire show.
You got to be all in.
Yeah, you keep missing the losses in the series and then come back for the win. You don't want to be a part of all the activities that have been going on in your absence now.
Well, I don't want to jinx anything, though.
They might call that the Speedo game.
I don't want to jinx anything.
When
I'll
we
call
look
the
back
Speedo
on
game.
this, TJ McConnell will say to his grandkids one day, that was the Speedo game.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned. It could be very
I might
interesting
have worn
this
it
morning.
in Section 229 last night.
Oh, Lord.
And it fit? That was the thing?
Well, that's very debatable.
All right. Coming up in a moment, we'll tell you all about what happened last night, including an update on the Fever as we get ready for Game 7 on Sunday night in the NBA Finals. No, it's okay. It's just a break right now, Kevin. It's okay. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Good morning and welcome into the Fan Morning Show. It is a Victory Friday because the Indiana Pacers came up with a dominant 108-91 victory over the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 6 of the NBA Finals last night. That sets up Game 7 Sunday night in Oklahoma City. Winner take all. And Kevin, when I say dominant, 108-91 does not accurately reflect how well the Pacers played and how thoroughly they dominated Oklahoma City last night.
No, but no one cares about the fourth quarter when you're able to rest all of your starters. They were up as much as 31, I believe, was the biggest, and that might be one of the bigger takeaways I have for Sunday. None of those starters reached their average minutes this postseason. You know, obviously Halliburton playing 23, considering his status is great, but look at it. Nembhard, Siakam, Turner, who definitely needs to be better, Nesmith, none of them you had to tax, and I think that is very, very important. When you get these elimination games, if you got to play 40, 45 minutes, all right, what's left in the tank? Well, all of them should have plenty left in the tank for one more run coming up Sunday night.
Well, the particulars last night, Obi Toppin, the man with the bright pink shoes, led everybody with 20 points for the Indiana Pacers. Andrew Nembhard, who had tremendous defensive plays on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, had 17 points. Pascal Siakam, 16 points and 13 boards. And yes, Tyrese Halliburton played through that lower calf injury, 14 points last night. But how about the assist near the end of the first half, JB, when he's kind of floating backwards on the near sideline and a kind of no-look over-the-head pass to a cutting Pascal Siakam for an emphatic dunk. And it was at that moment I knew Pacers are going to win Game 6.
That play will get played over and over again in Pacers lore forever. And I guess the hope now is you're playing that at a championship parade. But for Tyrese to get in the passing lane, get his hand on the ball, stay in bound, and then throw just a dime to Pascal, who said he had his young legs on that play. And like I said earlier in the show, baptized Jalen Williams. I mean, my goodness. The way he dunked that was like he tried to dunk it through the Earth's core. And that play just
sent that ball to Cameroon.
I mean, seriously. And then the entire crowd just exploded. There were a few moments that I posted video from inside the arena, and I believe two of them, I missed that play. I didn't know that was going to happen live. But end of the first half, Pascal turnaround jumper, and I posted on social media, and some of the responses were like, James, do you have earplugs? James, how's your ears? James, can you hear tomorrow? Because it was so loud. And I think even through like your phone or your laptop screen, you could kind of see or feel how crazy it was after those moments. And then the Ben Shepherd three again at the end of the third quarter was just like gravy at that point. I'm thinking to myself, oh, he didn't get that off. And I play it back. I'm like, you did. So just all-time great moments. But that play in particular, Jeff, when you see the reaction from some of the Pacers luminaries, Reggie Miller's up out of his seat. He's dapping up his son like he's a regular fan. I'm like, this is the greatest player in franchise history. You're making him, do things that he normally doesn't do as far as being here and being a fan and being hyped up. So it was an exciting moment, and they're now one win away from the first NBA championship and as close as they've ever been to an NBA championship.
Well, we'll see what happens on Sunday night, 8 p.m. tip. You'll hear it live right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan with the incomparable Mark Boyle and, of course, Eddie Gill. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever were on the road last night to take on the expansion Golden State Valkyrie, and they lose it 88-77. It was tight until about midway through the fourth quarter. A couple of three-point shots really sunk the Indiana Fever last night. I know nobody else was watching that one last night. The Fever dropped to 6-6 on the year. Caitlin Clark held to just 11 points in that game. Major League Baseball last night, Brewers beat the Cubs by a score of 8-7. It was Minnesota over the Cincinnati Reds by a score of 12-5. And St. Louis and the White Sox had a doubleheader, and the Cardinals sweep 5-4 in the first, 8-6 in the nightcap. Just a tremendous night of, I don't know about you guys, there was all kinds of sports going on. I was only focused on the Indiana Pacers last night.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I did see the Fever score, and I saw that Caitlin Clark struggled. Stephanie White also missed the game due to personal reasons, so again, continue to keep her in your prayers with whatever she's dealing with. But back to Pacers land, it was amazing. And just seeing some of the reaction after the game, because as Kevin knows, where we're sitting at, you do have to kind of go through some fans to get down to the media seating, and they were rocking after that game. I don't think anybody slept. And quite honestly, when I was driving into that, Kevin, I saw a few people jogging, and I was like, they must either be the most dedicated runners on planet Earth or just non-sports fans, because how are you awake at 6:30 running during anything? Because when I left downtown Indianapolis last night, it was still rocking at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, people were floating on the concourse at the end of that one. They didn't want to leave. And you think about it, I think it's really, obviously Sunday. It's Game 7. But you think about how the final home game of each of these series, Milwaukee series, Tyrese has the game winner at the rim on Giannis.
He's on a score table after the game.
Cleveland series, you score, 81 in the first half?
Yep.
Knicks series, a Game 6 to clinch on your home floor against probably your most hated rival. And then last night. And I know it's not the clinching game, obviously, but it's the last home game of this series. Like, I feel like the Pacers fans deserved that moment to end their home season, if you will. Like, the bitter taste of Game 4, yeah, I mean, you won't truly wash it out until Game 7, but I think that is a really, really cool thing for Pacers fans to have had this season. Those home moments in each of those series there. And boy, that place, every time I thought it couldn't get louder, it did. And honestly, the loudest cheer of the entire night, and James just mentioned so many different plays, the Shepherd 3, the Siakam dunk, et cetera, it might have been when that you-know-what, John Halliburton showed the damn towel in the Jumbotron. That place went nuts when John Halliburton showed the towel. And he was on the concourse at one point, and he was, I mean, you would have thought, Tiger Woods in 2000 was out on the old concourse there. So, John Halliburton, shout out to him, and shout out to his son for gutting it out last night.
108-91 the win. We're going to talk about it all morning long. You can get involved, too, at 239-1070 as we continue with the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan. Happy Friday, Victory Friday, set for Game 7 on Sunday night. The Indiana Pacers, the Oklahoma City Thunder. It'll be in Oklahoma City, but man, what a setup for the Pacers last night as they race out to a 31-point lead before calling off the Dogs and ended up winning it 108-91. Just in case, I don't know, maybe you had to work last night. Maybe you somehow, some way were camping and just got home early this morning. That's what's going on, because I don't know how anybody in the city could miss that game last night. Mark said camping, like you've never gone camping before?
On a Thursday.
Dude, everybody had a 4-day weekend, a lot of people. What are you talking about?
Better have a radio nearby.
If
then
you camped last night, 317-239-1070.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Also,
if you can
did
make
you
a
crochet
handmade,
your own swimsuit?
you can make a handmade Speedo, go ahead and give us a call as well.
I can tell nobody else grew up in the mountains. That's all I can tell you.
No,
That's
not
what's
in
going on.
Indiana.
Maybe the dunes.
You go down to Brown County State Park. It's a
Paoli
great place.
Peaks, people are
Point
camping
was,
out.
I don't know how anybody wouldn't know what we're already talking about this morning. Right?
Yes.
That's the point. Here's something. I was going through the box score last night, too. I don't know that I've ever seen this. Jalen Williams was a minus 40.
After
A
scoring
minus 40.
After scoring 40, right?
Yeah. Like, I'm not a big plus-minus guy. There's a lot of variables in there, but I don't know that I've ever seen a minus 40 in an NBA Finals game.
Again, what was left on the Pacers menu? We hit on this a lot leading into Game 6. When you get 5 games into a series, I'm kind of thinking, boy, haven't you thrown everything at the wall? What did the Pacers do differently? They did not pick up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as much full court as they have. That was the defensive wrinkle, and I think their thought process in that is when we are overextending ourselves in that area, it's coming back to bite us in the half court. We can't give the same defensive intensity throughout the 24 seconds of the shot clock. So let's now kind of reorganize our energy, if you will. Let's now provide the energy in the half court. And when Shai starts to drive, when Jalen Williams starts to drive, we're doubling. We're throwing 2 defenders at them, and we're going to make others try and beat us. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a season-high 8 turnovers for the MVP. And, I guess Aaron Wiggins maybe hit 1. Isaiah Joe maybe hit 1. Nobody else from the Thunder stepped up. And I think that largely was my thought process in Game 6. I'm like, yeah, Pacers going to win. Pacers others will step up, and the Thunder's others won't. And that, is pretty much how it played out. But that defensive wrinkle, I think, should offer Pacer fans again some optimism for Game 7. That is Mark Daigneault now having to go back and saying, all right, how are we going to counter this? And is it simply just, oh, yeah, Wiggins will hit 3s at home? Case and Wallace will hit 3s at home? Is that simply what it's going to be? Because now the Pacers have thrown something back at Oklahoma City that wasn't there in the first 5 games. That now becomes the schematic question for Game 7.
I will say, to add to that, Kevin, I thought that by not having Andrew Nembhard pick up SGA full court, you get a better version of him offensively. And I thought offensively this was his best game of the series, perhaps. I think he scored 17, 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3.
Those 2 threes early on from the corner, huge.
Yeah, that's a very efficient night for him. And I have to give him credit just for mentally bouncing back, too, because he had a horrible ending to Game 5. We talked about the turnover right in the backcourt, throw it straight in the backcourt to Case and Wallace for an easy dunk. We're trying to make that comeback. And I thought that his resolve in that moment kind of speaks to just what the entire team has done all year, which is flush bad performances and kind of get over it quickly. And another point I want to make too, this is hindsight's 2020, but I truly believe this. I'm not sure, maybe Scotty can find this for us. Has an NBA team ever won a championship when they've lost by 40 in the playoffs? Because I believe OKC got smacked by 40 plus by the Timberwolves in the conference finals. And I'm not saying it really matters at this point, but man, when they're low, there's some lows for this team. And they got smacked again last night.
I loved it. I was there for all of it. And I thought it was a really interesting post-game on-court interview on the network last night with Tyrese Halliburton when he talked about the fact that they took care of the basketball and they got rebounds. And by extension, you get more possessions and you don't put yourself in as big a hole, KB, when you take care of those things.
Great point.
There.
Look, 92 shots compared to 74 for OKC.
Yeah, you could boil the game down to turnovers, the differential there, lack for the Pacers. I believe it was their fewest in 11 games. For the Thunder, it was their most all season long, 21, something like that.
Yes.
And the three-point line was once again advantage to the Pacers, like it was in Game 4. Of course, the Pacers couldn't finish that one off. Let's focus on Halliburton here for a second, just because that dominated the conversation throughout. Early on, I came away. Obviously, the Pacers had to take the first time out, and it wasn't a great start to the game for the Pacers. But when I watched Halliburton, I guess I didn't see massive amounts of laboring. I didn't see, maybe, okay, some of the misses are due to him not being able to fully push off the calf. But, like, by no means did I see liability out there. By no means did I see, like, oh, wow, McConnell needs to be in the game now. This was not OG Anunoby in Game 7 of last year. I just thought Halliburton just missed. And really, I thought what was encouraging were, like, a lot of his misses were long. I mean, it's not like he had short. I thought the other night when he got back in the game, his misses were short in Oklahoma City. I didn't feel that at all. It's funny. I felt like that might have been his most aggressive shot-making game of the series, and lo and behold, it happens when he's dealing with an injury. And of course, the one he hit, I don't know what letter it was from, the L, the D, maybe the H. In Gainbridge Fieldhouse, that was the one that, I think really got him. Well, I think the first one that got him going, Turner got an offensive rebound, kicked it out to him wide open, top of the key, and he hit that. But then later, he hit that one a couple of possessions later. He had kind of that awkward lefty floater.
That was tough.
That went in. Like, to me, it's, his shooting percentage won't look great last night, but he was taking shots. He just was missing them. So, the fact that he played 23 minutes, I mean, I think that is super encouraging from where he is at, going into Sunday night.
Yeah, I thought at the very beginning of the game, too, when they were going through the announcing who's starting and all that kind of stuff, crowd's hyped up. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he had either a hot towel or a heating pad that he was holding up against that lower calf, and I thought, oh, that's not good. And then he stands up, and he hops and skips out to the court. And I thought, okay, he's going to be all right.
I mean, James, I never saw, I try to keep an eye on him. I never saw, like, anything out of the ordinary in terms of him going to the bench and, putting that towel back on that calf. Like, it's not like, whatever, Carl Eaton or somebody had to, go back into the tunnel with him,
right.
Stationary bike, anything like that. And Rick Carlisle, I thought, obviously until the fourth quarter, he really treated his minutes pretty much the exact same, in terms of in and out, the different stints he played. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary at all.
Can we go here too? Rick is one of the funniest coaches to me, and I know he's not joking when he does this, but they win the huge Game 6 at home, they force a Game 7, and then you want to ask him about the game, and he's like, nothing matters. It's all over. We're on to the future. And I'm like, the game just ended. I'm like, we all have jobs to do here, man. We got to ask about the game. He's like, that's old news. Nothing matters but tomorrow. If the sun doesn't come up, who cares?
I love it.
Roll the basketball out there. And I'm like, my goodness. Can we get a little bit of I'm not expecting you to pop champagne or be super overzealous, but can we get some, my guys played very well. He's just like, you know what, guys? It's a room full of 50 reporters. Who cares? Nothing matters. But I guess that mentality, to his credit, has bled through the entire team because Tyrese came in there, and if you were just looking at body language and had the audio off, you'd have thought that dude lost. He walks in there, and he's like, yeah, And he had this crazy quote. Maybe we'll play it later on. I'm paraphrasing here. He said something like, nothing matters before today, and nothing will matter after that game. And I'm like, dang, man, like this is like life or death, but that's what it is. A Game 7 in the finals, that's what it feels like. And I believe the last one that we had as a fans was Golden State and Cleveland. And as everyone remembers, Cleveland famously won on the road, which is what the Pacers are trying to do. And historically, teams do not win on the road very often, hardly at all in the finals. But
4-15.
Yeah, but
all time
at the same time,
sevens.
This Pacers team, like, why can't they be the fifth team to do it? I don't think anybody in this city or even in OKC thinks that Indiana has no chance of winning that game.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go to the phone lines, 239-1070. You saw it. Maybe you were there. You watched it. You lived it. You felt it. Bill's up next here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, Jeff, you asked if anyone was camping last night. Bill was camping.
Bill, did you go camping last night?
I was keeping my ass in front of my phone.
See?
That's how that works. Where were you watching the phone from?
I was actually at work at a Steak and Shake on the South Side.
All
so I had
right,
the
there
phone
we go.
propped up. So
I love Steak and Shake, Bill.
I've worked a few places like that where you get tired of it because you work there. There's no getting tired of that.
So, Bill, let me ask you this. There's no getting tired of the Pacers, quite honestly. So, what are your thoughts on them advancing to the do-or-die Game 7?
Well, I actually sent you guys a post this morning of how it's felt to be Indiana sports fan, where there was a scene from one of the Avengers movies where, don't do that, don't give me hope, and then backing it up with let's effing go.
Yep, I'm right there. I think everybody is right there with that line. And yeah, let's all go celebrate at Steak and Shake on Monday. Let's do that.
I'm going to say I think a lot of people would celebrate any way they
I think
can.
at downtown Steak and Shake was already popping last night.
Man, oh man, oh man. Appreciate the phone call, Bill. 239-1070, the number to call. Alex joins us next here on the Fan Morning Show. Good morning, Alex. Talk to me.
Morning, guys. Hey, I'm not sure if you talked about it before earlier today, but I want to point out where Spicy Peas switched on to guarding Jalen Williams all game and completely shut him down. I mean, I love Naismith, but he's getting his doors blown off all series. So I think that little tweak, honestly, I think that was game changer. So.
Yeah, I thought overall, just from a defensive standpoint, it was doubling those two when they started to get downhill. I think Jalen Williams, you saw it early in the series. At times when you crowd him, dribbling becomes an issue for him. And, they really rattled Shea. 8 turnovers for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That, again, it's a season high. We're talking 100 games here this season. So, yeah, I thought both of those, just overall defensive approach, not picking up his full court, throwing Siakam a little bit more onto Jalen Williams, really, really key, and just doubling. And at some point, you got to say, all right, others for the Thunder, can you deliver? And they certainly did not last night. That was one of the worst three-point shooting efforts of the season for the Thunder through the first 3.5 quarters.
Did Dominic Caruso play last night?
Did who?
Caruso. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alex Caruso.
Alex, sorry.
But yeah, he was in there and he was not doing much.
It's been so long since I saw him, I forgot his first name.
Dominic did not play last night. 0 minutes.
No, but Alex Caruso, he's a guy that's been killing us all series long, and he was almost absent last night.
Started the second half.
I do want to say this, Kevin. When you talked about putting OKC in tough situations and putting them in clutch game situations, the other thing I think, too, is when you have moments like you had last night where you put them up against it, they lose a big game, they go into a Game 7, there's this thought in the back of my mind like, yeah, I know they won 68 games, but they're not Kevin Durant, they're not LeBron James, they're not Steph Curry. They haven't been here. They haven't won. It's almost like every great team. The Pacers are doing it on their own side as well. You're trying to do something to validate all of the work and to say, no, we're not the up-and-coming team. We're here. And that's what I think they're fighting right now. And it's kind of vexing for their team because on one hand, they look so dominant in some games. In other games, I'm like, these guys look really young because beyond the turnovers, there were just some really bad shots that they took. I thought SGA had a horrible 3 early in the shot clock in the second quarter. And I was like, why are you? And they were pressing a bit to get back into the game. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. It's very early. And some of those bad shots, like we've talked about throughout the show this week, those might as well be turnovers. In my opinion, if you're going to shoot a brick with no ball movement, the Pacers will take that every day of the week. So I think there's certainly some doubt, at least a little bit, going into Game 7. Oh, man, we haven't been here before. Yeah, we're on our home floor. We've never won a championship before as this franchise, so it's a lot to unpack.
Can we have whatever Pascal Siakam summoned last night? Did you guys see the eyes roll back in the back of his head?
Yeah, I was afraid he drank some Kool-Aid and he wasn't gonna.
Whatever entity he summoned, bring that to Game 7.
I'm telling y'all, the man was a priest, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, James, I would just add. The Thunder, that starting lineup's 26 and under. Yeah. It'll be the youngest if they win it. It'll be the youngest starting lineup ever to win an NBA Finals game, or NBA Finals period. And I would also probably add, Caruso is the one guy that has championship experience in that team, but, that was a bubble atmosphere. Last night was not bubble atmosphere.
And he had LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
So that is, it's just different. Now, do you make anything of the Thunder have been in a Game 7 already in this playoffs and won?
I do think that helps them. Sure. I think that's certainly an advantage, but For the Pacers, you're like, well, this regime, this group isn't necessarily new to a Game 7 either. They won one on the road against the Knicks. Now, I will say it'll certainly be a different environment and different approach, in my opinion, because if we remember the Game 7 last year, and a win is a win is a win is a win. Not going to take it away from the Pacers at all. However, that game, OG Anunoby pulled his hamstring even more, came back, and he was not supposed to be playing. I think Jalen Brunson broke his hand in like the first half. Those things likely will not happen in this Game 7, so you're going to have to play a full 4 quarters, I think, to beat this team, which they've shown that they can do.
I think it's important that last night, as we just talked about, the Pacers threw something differently at OKC, and it worked out of this world, really, with the new defensive, I guess, schematic plan that they did. It wasn't like, there will probably be people, and probably it's mostly Oklahoma City people, that will say, that was the home court game. You know, simply the home court lifts you. And, I don't know, Pacers fans, they might say, well, boy, they might be right. Look at the 2000 NBA Finals. Pacers are up on the brink of elimination. They smoked the Lakers in Game 5. What happens in Game 6? The Lakers win on home floor. Like, is that simply just the home court game? If you look at the first 3 games in the series, how many minutes have the Pacers led by down there? What is it, like 2?
Yeah.
3 minutes in the entire 3 games? But the fact that you, again, threw the defensive wrinkle, I think should offer a little bit more optimism. Yeah. It wasn't just purely home court, role players outplayed their role players, boom. Yeah, that was a part of it.
Yeah.
But also, Mark Daigneault right now has to be breaking down film to say, guys, when they double, what are we doing to counter? Are we simply just going to say, hey, boom, teams are doubling Zach Edey, let's hope that Fletcher Lawyer and Mason Gillis and Braden Smith hit shots? Or are you going to throw, another wrinkle? Do they have whatever? Hey, let's let Caruso initiate a little bit more and get Shea off the ball. The fact that you have thrown a little bit more of a, oh boy, we got to break down film before Game 7, I think that is advantage Pacers. And on the sidelines, I would think Rick Carlisle is definitely advantage Pacers.
Yeah, and we saw a couple of things that we haven't seen a lot last night, too. We saw Tony Bradley check into the game fairly early.
Hubba Bubba!
And
I thought Hubba Bubba
was terrific.
I thought Hubba Bubba gave him a minute or two.
Miles Turner was rough.
He was
rough to start that game. I think he missed his first 8 shots from the field until he finally got a dunk there on a dime from Andrew Nembhard. But Tony Bradley, man, jokes aside, and I was dying laughing the other day about that Hubba Bubba stuff. But I had a chance to catch up with him before Game 6, and I was like, man, like, what kept you going? Because he's been on a lot of different teams. He's had injuries, and he's like, dude, I started this year in the G League. And he was just saying my love of the game and the opportunity to kind of chase the dream. And I was like, well, what happens when the dream kind of gets stalled out? Like, well, how do you keep going? He was like, man, it's God, my family, and just this thirst to play this game. And for him, this is their 5th string center. Like, that is the wildest part about it. He is not supposed to be playing. So the fact that he's giving you good minutes in the NBA Finals game just speaks to, again, this Hoosier-esque run that they're on. This dude should not be, like, good in the finals, and he gave him some positive minutes last night.
Not only that, how about for the first time, I don't remember, maybe it happened a minute or two, but we saw T.J. McConnell and Tyrese Halliburton on the floor at the same time for a few minutes last night.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
And that's the other thing, too. They're able to mix and match their guard play pretty well, and then T.J. can just be T.J. with anybody. And I know people always ask, why does he get more minutes? The way he plays, he has to kind of go all out for his stretches, and you can only do that in spurts. And I thought the spurts he gave them, to Kevin's point earlier in the show, the second quarter in particular was, just a massive shot in the arm for this team. And it is a talent, it's a skill. I believe it's intrinsic, like he's just born with it. That dude's ability to just get some juice from anywhere and to provide some is remarkable, because this, even before last night, in Game 5, they're dead, and he wills them back into the game. And so I think even a guy like that, I don't want to see that in the Game 7. And I also want to, this is where I wish I was an athlete so bad. I'm like, man, it must be a crazy feeling to go into an environment and be like, man, it is us against everybody up in here. And if you get a chance to silence those dudes, like, come on, you're a legend forever, and that's what they're chasing.
Well, they're chasing an NBA Finals Game 7 on Sunday night. We'll talk all about it over the next couple of hours. Thanks for being here this morning at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. We will continue in a moment.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Rebound, Williams. His outlet pass stolen by McConnell. McConnell to the top. Toppin lets it fly and delivers a three.
What hands by McConnell there. He just throws one up in the air and is able to come up with that steal and Toppin back-to-back threes.
Nembhard has the ball. Sends it right sideline to Halliburton. Out of the far corner, Neesmith goes back to Halliburton. Caruso stalking him on the right sideline. Here comes a long, long, long one from out beyond the hash mark. Halliburton's third three. Jalen Williams has his pass deflected. Halliburton steals it into the open floor. He got it to Siakam, who threw down the right-hand tomahawk. It's a 20-point lead. Down to 8 seconds to play. McConnell on the drive in the lane. Open man, and Toppin missed the three. Rebound punched outside. Shepard fires from the top.
Good.
He hit it, and that's going to count. He hit a three as time expired.
Care to chime in?
Can you believe that? He shot that ball.
We're still waiting.
Boom, baby.
There you go.
Boom, boom.
There you go.
The lead is 30. McConnell in business, moving it left to right, drives it hard to the right baseline, pulls up from there, and hits another short jump shot.
I need to tell you what, he's put it in another gear these last couple of games. He's played so well for the Pacers here.
We just wanted to protect home court. You know, we didn't want to see these guys celebrate a championship on our home floor, backs against the wall, and we just responded.
How were you able to just battle through it tonight?
It's the finals. It's the finals. Like, you know, all of us got to give everything we have.
This is what it's all about. This is what you dream about growing up, this kind of opportunity.
We believe, you know, we got a lot of faith in this group. So take care of our bodies, get ready, and Game 7 NBA Finals, what more can you ask for?
And for those of you wondering, welcome into the Fan Morning Show. We're on to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. For as much celebration as there was in the streets last night, for as much as everybody was talking about it right after the game, the players and Rick Carlisle, as soon as media availability came around, they wanted nothing but Game 7. They didn't want to talk about Game 6. They didn't want to celebrate. They're focused. Fans, great. Go celebrate. Players very focused right now.
Absolutely. And Rick Carlisle is leading that charge. Like I said, it was a lot of nothing matters. Life moves on. Game 7 is soon. We'll talk to you all when we're forced to. Who cares? And I'm like, dang, Rick, can we get a little bit of a recap of your thoughts on Game 6 at all? But that is a mindset that they've had throughout these playoffs. And part of it can be, you know, just like a mental flex that you're trying to do to make sure your guys stay locked in and you don't get too high off the home win, which was done, to Jeff's point earlier in the show, in emphatic fashion. I mean, it's hard to not get excited about that type of performance. But, man, these guys do not care. And I thought the most candid response we may have gotten was from Pascal Siakam saying, you know, I've won a championship, but more often than not, I'm going on an earlier vacation than I want to. And we have an opportunity to play in the last game of the season. And that's a weird feeling too, Kevin. I think when you go into a game and you know, no matter what happens, this is the last game of the year. Like, that's got to be an interesting perspective to kind of play from. And you certainly want to end it the right way because, as we know, Game 7s decide legacies. You win a Game 7, you win a championship in Game 7, you are remembered forever. You lose a Game 7 in the finals, and it will hurt you forever. So that is certainly something to kind of weigh when you're going in such a big game in OKC.
Yeah, the 3 o'clock flight today is not to Cancun. It's back to Oklahoma City. And that champagne down in the bowels of Gainbridge Fieldhouse last night, that is also packed up. And now it is also heading to OKC.
You think James Johnson was on the way out from his ejection was like, yeah, pack up that trophy and bring it back to OKC. We got one more game to play.
James Johnson, just an epic performance last night. 2 minutes, 1 ejection, I believe. Some loud cheers, though, both when he came in and both when he hit the showers as well. And now, as Rick Carlisle, alluded to, we get the 2 best words in sports. And Game 7 pressure, that ain't real pressure. That is a different level. And now you've put that, on to Oklahoma City. So just it goes without saying that you can't wait for Sunday night. It's pretty freaking amazing that we are here at this point of it. And, I'll also add, just last night, the scene, I thought it was so deserved for the fans that they got that one final time. It's been, such an unbelievable year, a movie-like season for the Pacers. Mentioned this in the opening hour. When you think back to the home games that have ended the series so far, and I know that this series obviously is not over, but there won't be another home game. You think back to the huge comeback against the Bucks, and Tyrese hits the shot at the buzzer. You think back to the Cleveland, home game, and it was the 81-point first half. You think back to the Knicks, a Saturday night to go back to the NBA Finals on your home floor against the New York Knicks. And then last night, and all the moments, the Siakam dunk, the Shepherd 3 to end the third quarter, it just seemingly every former player they showed on the Jumbotron, the roar just got louder and louder and louder. Those will be memories that you will have for a lifetime. Obviously, you want one more. You want the 48 minutes on Sunday night to decide it all in all caps. But looking back on this season, some absolutely incredible, I can't believe we were in the building. I can't believe we watched that. And that is what being a fan is all about.
So much fun. And, of course, Sunday night sets the stage for the Game 7. Alex just reached out to me on Blue Sky, one of my social media accounts, and he said, Jeff, I haven't been to church in 2.5 years. I may have to go to church on Sunday.
No, hold on. No.
You don't want to change it up?
No, that's blasphemous. That's blasphemous, Alex. You avoid that church at all costs, brother. If you ain't been there this long, trust me, the Pacers can win Game 7 and get to heaven without you. But I think it's a lot of
all prayers welcomed and encouraged.
I was gonna say, I think there's a lot of fans just like Alex who'll be trying to put the blazer on, the bow tie, and head to service. But to Kevin's point, that's probably the point that I'll remember the most individually, even as a reporter. It's like to see the city rocking like that, the energy going into these games, the energy after these games, the highs and lows, but obviously most of them being highs, and just that overall resiliency, man, it is fun to watch. And I tweeted this out throughout the game. I think TJ McConnell will be loved here forever, regardless of how it ends.
Oh, there's no thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because the dude, he embodies Indiana so well. He looks like he could be your next door neighbor. I mean, when he did the, food give back with Kevin, people probably believed he really did work in IT or work in advertising
TJ for marketing.
Marketing for the Pacers. And he is like the flawed character you see in the movie that finds a way.
Did you guys see what he rocked walking into the arena last night?
I did not catch that.
I did see that. He looked like he was going to
this man is carrying
conference.
A Tupperware like John Herrick across the hall would be sliding into the fridge right now, which the fridge is always so crowded. I can never find any room to put my lunch in there. And he literally looked like it was one of those Tupperwares where, some form of spaghetti and meat sauce was my, observational eye in looking at this Tupperware. But it had the questionable look on it like, do I have one more day left to eat this before it goes bad? That's what TJ McConnell looked like walking into the game of the year, the game you have to have. And I know TJ McConnell's thought process necessarily wasn't this, but how he played the game last night, it's like he wanted to walk over to Rick Carlisle, double birds, and go, why didn't you put me back in the game to end Game 5? Like, that's how McConnell played last night. And go back to the start of the second quarter. At that point of the game, guys, the scoreboard was still like 32-31.
32-31 was
the Pacers
exactly
had just had a very clunky first quarter. Awful start, unbelievable 4-minute stretch in the middle, and then kind of a poor finish again. Their offense had yet to really get going consistently. McConnell as a scorer set the tone there early in the second quarter. Boy, I want to know what was in the Tupperware.
Can we get a poll, Mark, up on the account saying...
Mark, did you see this look that he was on?
I just tweeted it out on our show account. I said, hope there are seconds of whatever was in that Tupperware.
I don't know if it's like...
He does look like he's like a substitute teacher walking into
like home ec or something. He looks like he just
1,000%. He's like, can you show me where the teacher's lounge fridge is?
Got to put this in here.
What do you think it was?
Can you validate my
Does it look... spaghetti and meat sauce was my guess. Is that what it looked like to you?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, does he eat it again before Game 7? Because whatever he's been doing, he's been balling.
Because, James, you have witnessed this, and I think we've told that. I know we explained the Halliburton process in order to play last night. The Pacers don't do the morning shoot around. They kind of push their day of shoot around to like 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So guys show up to the arena at like 2 or 3 o'clock to get ready for the game. And I mean, they have world-class chefs ready to make them whatever they would like for their pregame meal. And Grandma McConnell's dish is somehow in the Tupperware. And do you heat it up for 45 or 60 seconds before the game?
That's probably something that he's been doing for years and years and years, and he's not going to break that routine, James.
He probably shouldn't. But, Mark, can we get a poll up on the show account asking, if you haven't been to church recently, should you go to church on Sunday and pray for the Pacers?
Religion and politics, that's where our polls are going ahead of Game 7.
Only as far as it impacts the game.
Look,
that's all we're talking about.
And again, you can, believe whoever you want to believe in. I'm just saying, do you pray or do you ask for a favor from whoever you believe in when it comes to Game 7? I guess you can lose all the good energy you can get.
All good vibes are welcome, JB. All good vibes are welcome.
Yeah, but it is cool, though, getting back to a more serious note, seeing so many former Pacers there and then knowing kind of their relationships and how complicated some of them are. Like even seeing, Meta World Peace, Ron Artest there last night.
I really enjoyed Steven Jackson.
The response he got, Steven Jackson, who, by the way, I walked by him. I was like, how tall is this dude?
Yeah, he's legit
6'8".
6'8".
Yeah, maybe it's because he's slim, but I was like, is he 6'10"? Like he was towering over everybody.
I thought that roar was cool for him.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we know brawl history and things like that.
But he's been so outspoken about
Yep.
the regret that he has. I thought that was a cool moment. And I like how they individually put him on the Jumbotron. For those that didn't see it, James, you obviously were there. They had some of the 2,000 guys in the suite, Crozier and, I'm trying to think, Travis Best, Sam Perkins, some of those guys. And then, individually, they isolated some guys onto the Jumbotron. I like that Steven Jackson got his moment to be on the Jumbotron. I did think for a second when they showed Shane Steichen and they kind of hyped it up with like some Colts, hey, and from the Colts, I thought almost the crowd was like, we don't want any Colts juju tonight. We don't want any of that. No.
Man.
But Shane did a nice job.
Me and Shane going to have to have a talk because I saw more juice from him in the crowd than I hear from him ever. He was hyped up. You can see him saying, let's go. But it is good energy to be around, and certainly an environment you don't want to miss if you have the opportunity to be in there. So to all the fans who had a chance to see that game in person, oh, man. Like we talked to, I believe, someone yesterday, actually, who said they did not sell their season tickets. They wanted to be in the building for Game 6.
They did sell in the AFC title game.
Yep.
They did not sell for this one. I'm trying to think what his name was. Mark, for some reason, is popping in my head. Mark Dykton, you might know. But yes, shout out to him. And I did think, at least in the upper deck, I couldn't believe how many Thunder families I saw. I mean, I'm talking 4 and 5 person families of kids under the age of 10 going to this game. I was
what else are you doing in Oklahoma City?
Can you imagine bringing your 1-year-old or your 2-year-old to Game 6 of the NBA Finals?
They better take it all in.
I was about to say you gotta get on board. This bandwagon ain't got too much room on it.
As a father of 3, I have to say that babysitters, 2 kids, that's fine. 3, you're starting to stretch it out a little bit with babysitters.
Gosh, I'm like every
At that
time
point, you're like, let's just hop in the car and go to the game.
Maddie had texted me at one point. She's like, "How insane is it in there?" And my response was, every time I think it's the loudest point in the game, it gets louder. It just kept. It was a crescendo. It just kept on going up and up and up, and how loud that place got.
Quick poll for everybody who was there and you guys too. Louder at the end of the half when Siakam hits the buzzer beater, or louder at the end of the third quarter when Shepard hits the buzzer beater?
Ooh, probably halftime. Because that was a few plays after, I believe, the dunk.
Yeah.
So that was just like, oh, man, we're really cooking with gas now.
Cherry on top at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm halfway joking, halfway serious. When they showed John Halliburton on the Jumbotron and he, put out the old towel,
oh, Lord,
that place erupted.
I thought the spirit of Giannis was going to come around the corner or something and be like, you get that towel out of here.
You didn't even need McAfee on the mic last night.
That's juju right there.
No. And, again, he has to be having the time of his life. His son had a huge, game in this series, earlier in this series, bounced back, played through the calf injury, and he's now going into a Game 7 for all the marbles. Like, this is just the most movie script-esque run ever, but it's real life, and they have a real chance to win this. I do not go into this Game 7 thinking, oh, they're at home. Like, this does not feel like, to me, I want to say the Kings pushed the Warriors to a 7th game, and they were actually at home too. And then Steph Curry dropped 50, and they got him up out of there. I believe the Warriors got pushed to a Game 7 again this past postseason against the Rockets. They were on the road. They win that game. And, again, that's Steph Curry. This hasn't been the case. These guys have not been in this position, and this Pacers team has already, kind of ripped their heart out in Game 1. Why can't you do it again?
One thing we haven't really talked about today, but I want to put a point of emphasis on it. So they lead by 22 at halftime, and they come out, and it was ugly basketball on both sides, no question about it. But Oklahoma City did not score for 5 minutes in the third quarter when they're down 22, James.
Yeah, and you know what? That to me was the nail in the coffin. I was thinking to myself, as everyone else, well, if you're up by a lot and neither one of you score, you'll still win. And after a few of those stops early in that quarter, Jeff, I was like, oh, man, like if OKC makes, 2 or 3 threes or gets a little 7-0 spurt here, they're back in this thing. But that just didn't happen. And it became very obvious as the game wore on. They just had no answers for the Pacers' defensive adjustments, their approach. And that's probably the most out of sorts I've seen SGA look, especially on offense. And, again, credit to Andrew Nembhard because –
that's where my individual game ball, I think, would go.
Dude, SGA cannot get around him. Like, he's not, love Aaron Nesmith, love his effort, but, man, he is food for SGA. Ben Shepherd, food. And he's able to turn the corner with Andrew Nembhard, his ability to stonewall SGA without using his hands to reach in and kind of keep him off of getting into the paint. Every bucket that SGA did make yesterday, it was tough. Very tough.
Yeah, and again, my Nembhard game ball is certainly that is a huge part of it, what James just pointed to. But the early corner threes he hit when you, again, really needed some offensive life. And then in that third quarter, Oklahoma City made one of those fake runs. And it's like, okay, is this going to be a real run? Or is this going to be the fake run? Is this like the run to cut it to 18 and then it never gets closer? Right. Nembhard scored 7 straight at one point. He hit a 3 and got to the foul line for 4 shots. And that was one, I forget what OKC had got it to. They definitely had got it to under 20. And that was one of those, like, and I know Doris Burke, so I was watching the game on my laptop as, sitting there. I know Doris Burke said this, if they can get it to 10 in the fourth, that's, they obviously have a chance at that point. That was just one of those, hey, you're not going to get it to 10. And Nembhard, I thought, was huge in just pushing it back up to that level where the Pacers were in full control. And again, did not have to, as Siakam, I think, maybe Turner, really didn't have to play their guys in the fourth quarter. 23 minutes for Tyrese Halliburton. None of their starters sniffed their playoff averages. So as if you need to, obviously adrenaline will be very much in full force coming up on Sunday night, but the Pacers did not have to tax any of their starters minutes-wise last night at all.
Yeah, with about 5:15 to go in the third quarter, they got it to 19, and then they kind of stalled out.
I think that's when Nembhard maybe
at
had
that
the
point in time.
Flurry.
Real quickly, Jason's on the line here, 239-1070, as we start to get some of your feedback and your thoughts and your feelings from last night's game. Jason, good morning. Welcome to the Fan Morning Show. Talk to me about Game 6.
Good morning. As we were sitting there last night watching the game, looking at Game 7 obviously coming up, we got to thinking who actually would be the MVP if the Pacers are able to pull this off. Obviously Miles has taken himself out because he hasn't really had a really great game or great series yet. Pascal looks like he could possibly pull it off, but could this be the first time in NBA history that we actually have a sub be an MVP? And that sub will be either Obi or TJ. Both of them are carrying this team as they go. Even in losses, they are playing great on the road and playing great at home.
Yeah, Jason, that's a great point, but I also think it's emblematic of what the Indiana Pacers do. Like, everybody has contributed to this 3-3 tie at this point in time. Every single Pacer of note, 1 through 8, has made a difference.
Boy, if TJ McConnell has an all-time great Game 7 and he were to win Finals MVP, I'm putting him as the greatest Pacer ever. But no, seriously, that is a good question from Jason. I've thought about this.
If he has an all-time Game 7, he would deserve some consideration.
Yeah, I've thought about this. I would say through 6 games, it's probably Siakam. He's been the most consistent star-level player, and I don't want to dismiss that. However, what a good problem to have, to Jeff's point. I mean, who cares? And that's the point that I've been making throughout the playoff thing. We all have said this. Who cares if the Pacers have a superstar? That conversation to me is so dumb because it's a team game. It's not tennis. It's not golf. It doesn't matter if your top guy is so much better than the other guys. What does your collective unit look like throughout an entire 7-game series? And their entire team has gotten to this point.
And I think very, very realistically, by the way, that the Finals MVP, if the Pacers were to pull it off, will come on who has the best performance in Game 7.
Agreed. Yeah.
That is a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Because everybody has played an equal part in this.
Yeah,
to this point,
yeah.
I would say Siakam to this point. But, yeah, if Ty or Nembhard or McConnell or Neesmith come up with a big game or a big stretch that sways the game, that's probably going to be your MVP, don't you think?
And just one more I'd throw onto that list. Again, not necessarily in the MVP realm, but a guy that's been, I think, very good for the large chunk of this series. And in particular, he was good in Game 1, and I thought had some moments in Game 5 down there, which is important as we start to shift towards Sunday, is Obi Toppin.
Yep.
Again, outstanding effort from him last night. And, that becomes the question. You have not been good in Oklahoma City. You've led for 3 minutes of the 130-some minutes, 140-some minutes that have been played in those 3 games down there. But Obi is a guy coming off the bench, no fear. And again, he's going to be critical, especially if Turner continues to struggle shooting the basketball.
All right, it's Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. More phone calls coming up in a moment. But right now, let's check it down. Just the facts, man. 108-91. The Indiana Pacers defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game 6 of the NBA Finals. It's tied at 3. We'll ship it back to Oklahoma City Sunday night for Game 7, 8 p.m. tip. You'll hear it live right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And JB, it's all to play for. The entire season that started at 10-15 has 48 minutes, maybe more, remaining to decide it all.
Yeah, 48 minutes away from glory or 48 minutes away from agony. I cannot wait until Sunday night. And for those who are like me, how do you sleep between now and then?
It's going to be a long one. Obi Toppin led the way with 20 points, to your point, KB, last night. Andrew Nembhard getting it done on both ends of the court. 17 points, tremendous defense on SGA. And Pascal Siakam, Mr. Consistent, 16 points. But we probably don't talk about his 13 rebounds enough. Getting back to what Tyrese Halliburton said right after the game on the floor, rebounding and not turning the ball over. To him, those were the 2 keys in the game last night.
Yeah, 3-point differential I thought was huge once again as well. But yeah, that defensive wrinkle, not picking up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as much full court. You pretty much doubled Shai and Jalen Williams when they started to drive. That led to a season high in turnovers for the Thunder, a season high in turnovers for SGA as well. That is the schematic wrinkle that the Thunder must address. This was not just the home floor lifts you. No. The Pacers did something tangibly different that now OKC must figure out before Sunday night.
Sunday night at 8, again, right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Also last night, a game you heard over on WIBC because the Pacers were playing. It was a late one, but at Golden State last night. Tough night for the Fever and Caitlin Clark. She scored just 11 points, and they lose to the Valkyrie 88-77. Their record drops to 6-6. And JB, it doesn't get any easier. They will play Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock in Las Vegas against the Aces.
Yeah, tough loss for them. I still think they're figuring out who they are and how they kind of all fit together. They've had some injury issues and things like that. Stephanie White was not with them last night due to personal reasons. I believe DeWanna Bonner remains away from the team due to personal reasons. So just a little bit weird for them to start the year. But they got to get going here soon because it's not a super long season. It's a longer season than usual, 44 games this year. But it's not like an NBA season where you have all the time to kind of figure it out.
All right, we did have some baseball yesterday, believe it or not. Milwaukee beat the Cubs 8-7 at Wrigley Field. The Cincinnati Reds lose at home to the Twins 12-5. St. Louis swept the doubleheader from the White Sox 5-4 and 8-6. And speaking of doubleheaders, on the road, Indianapolis and the Columbus Clippers split a doubleheader. There they will play again tonight at 7:05. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we get back to talking Pacers?
Road America IndyCar coming up Sunday afternoon. You can hear that on these airwaves. That is Elkhart Lake up there in Wisconsin. So the car's on the track this afternoon, quals tomorrow, and I believe it's 1:30-ish. Green flag coming up on Sunday.
All right, that's what's happening in the world of sports. The world of the Indiana Pacers continues to spin right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan next.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Man, is it fun to be in the city of Indianapolis this morning. You wake up and the Indiana Pacers are one game away from becoming NBA champions. A lot of work to do. They're saying the same thing in Oklahoma City this morning. And I know people were online. I saw a couple of folks post the incredible scenes of people just celebrating in the streets last night and painting the town blue and gold after that game last night. And so many other people from outside the city are like, oh, great, you haven't won anything yet. Look how you're celebrating. I'm like, fans should celebrate every moment that they can. Now, the players and Coach Carlisle, that was a different story after the game, James.
I'm like, what kind of game is this where no one wants to talk about what they just did and how they just pulled this off? But, yeah, Rick Carlisle is very much of the mindset, like, nothing matters but Game 7, Sunday nights. I will say, when I was leaving Cambridge last night, walking back to my car, there were some people out there selling the unofficial Pacers shirts, and I was thinking that man is making a killing right now.
Is that the one that your friend bought with the fat Michael Jordan on it?
Yeah, did you see that one?
That was so random. That was so random. I don't even know how that was a thing.
I want that one.
I do want one. I want that one too.
Yeah, I'm like, there's a
$5.
Michael Jordan symbol on it. He did not play for this franchise, and it was like a sumo wrestling Michael Jordan logo.
It was a big-bellied Michael
Look,
Jordan.
fat,
I
like
don't
fat
understand
Albert
it.
was trying to slam dunk.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but again, everybody's trying to get on the action when you have an outcome like that in Game 6.
That's one of those things you put in the washer and it melts away in 5 minutes.
I just want to know if Kevin's willing to meet somebody in a parking lot of some shady business somewhere to get a T-shirt.
Well, Jeff, I know you've been under the weather, and I know part of the reason why you are gutting it out and sent out the press release to our entire staff of "I'm back" this morning, which
that was
I
beautiful, by the way.
very much enjoyed, is you wanted to see it. You wanted to see it in the flesh.
Yep.
You wanted to see it with your own eyes. Here it is.
Oh, it's the Speedo.
Oh, yeah.
At least it's in his pocket
Oh,
right
yeah.
now. That's well done.
There
Kevin's
she
whipping
is.
stuff out of his pants right now.
Looking beautiful. There's the elastic. Lord knows that one need to be tied.
Have you tried
It's
it
already
on?
unraveling.
Have you tried it on?
Jeff, I was hoping you got a chance to go back and listen to the show yesterday, but it sounds like you have not.
I was
yes,
asleep yesterday
I tried
during
it
the
on.
show.
I'll iron it, I think, coming up. It looks a hair wrinkly. Now it's been in the pocket for the last 2 hours here of the show. But
So how good is this fabric now? Don't be burning
well,
stuff.
this is Speedo.
Yeah.
This is legit. I mean, look. I mean, you got the tag right here.
It is a Speedo.
This is legit.
It's not like
folks.
one of those Timu knockoffs that you got
No,
from
Yeah,
China.
this is not homemade.
This is
Courtesy of one of
I mean,
Jeff's friends.
No, I was talking about like a professional seamstress out there.
Phelps,
doing something, man.
Spitz, Bowen. You know, when you think about elite
Phelps,
Speedo
Spitz,
wearers in the
Bowen,
history of
yeah.
the world, that's who you think of. So some might say last night will be referred to as the Speedo game, and it is ready and prepared for, what are we looking at?
Did you have-
Tuesday for the parade? Is that what we're thinking here?
Did you have that in your pocket last night during the game?
I had it on.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Which you've ever looked down and thought, wow, this looks heinous?
That's what Kevin was doing last night. Maddie's like, can you please go somewhere else?
Again,
I will tell you this about parade plans. Rightfully so. No one at the Indiana Pacers or anybody downtown, like they don't want to talk about any parade at this point in time.
Not
So-
publicly, obviously behind the
No,
scenes.
even behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, you got to plan for it. You can't just not plan for it.
You would think, but nobody is saying anything from anywhere. The only thing I've been able to get out of anybody anywhere is that it's probably later in the week.
What do you think, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Might even be later than that, I heard.
Really?
Maybe.
Don't these guys want to go like
nobody's
on their
saying anything
off-season
officially.
vacation?
Sources.
The
Sources
term
say.
was later in the week. So maybe Wednesday or Thursday. We don't know. But let's just win Sunday night.
Well, I got
Let's just get
vacation
there.
starting Friday, so that Speedo's got to be donned before that.
Well, you can, one way or the other, you can have your own parade outside.
Well,
We need to figure out how that
that's a good point.
broadcast is going to work when Kevin runs around in the circle. Who's jogging next to him? Who's got the microphone? And where's that clipped
Yeah,
at? And
there's a lot of
Where's that
logistics.
clip? That is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
has Maddie seen you in the Speedo?
No, I don't. Maddie, not. I don't think so. No, this is not something that I've worn behind a closed door outside
Whatever
of
you
Mark
do,
and James
Mark,
saying it.
you make sure you clip the audio from that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will clip the video, and this will be played at Max Bowen's 17th birthday party or something to embarrass
Rosie's,
him.
do they do Sweet 16s?
Yeah.
Rosie's Sweet 16, the most embarrassing moment
So
she's
he
had.
played at his wedding anniversary
Yeah,
with Maddie.
something like that. We need footage of this. This cannot be lost to history.
At this point, your wife has to be like, can you just keep clothes on at work every once in a while? Like, I feel like that's becoming
that will be
a trend.
a cringy scene. Guys, I didn't think it was cringy watching Tyrese Halliburton last night. And again, James, we're high up there, but I did not see anywhere near the amount of laboring or favoring that I saw in the second half of Game 5.
No.
Honestly, I thought the misses early were he just missed. Like, I thought he got to some spots. I thought, like, he had a couple of step backs, which, that you would think would be
and
pretty
I was
strenuous.
like, oh, boy, stop stepping back.
On the calf. But, again, a lot of his shots were long early, which I thought was a difference from Game 5. The stat line, 14 points on 5 of 12 shooting. I'm sure there's some Pacer fans out there that are saying, wait, this man shot the ball 12 times in 23 minutes on a bum calf. Can he not do that, when he's healthy? And how aggressive he was. But all in all, I think you have to be pleased with the Halliburton you saw last night.
Check this out. We have Rick Davenport in our YouTube chat saying, I have never been disappointed to go on vacation. Leaving with my wife for a week for the Caribbeans, I'm going to have to find a sports bar in the islands to watch Sunday night. Can you imagine being Rick Davenport in the Caribbean islands, and you might be the only Pacers fans there, and you lose your mind because they just won Game 7?
I mean, that's got to be a real situation for a lot of Pacer fans. Like, think about it. You are, not that people plan their vacations around the Pacers and the Colts, but, like, there's an element of in the summer. You obviously are going on vacation.
Well,
some people do.
A personal experience of mine, my parents are in town currently. They came down.
Yeah, they have a great hotel room in downtown. Right
yes, they do. Yeah, we got the hotel months ago, and I'm glad they did. But, yeah, I would love to see my family, and they came down for their little mini vacation to Indianapolis. They hadn't been here in a few years. And I told them, I love y'all, but I'm going to ditch y'all Thursday night. Like, I love you, mama, and I'll do anything for you, mama. But not that. I'm so sorry. Like, the game is more important, yes, than family right now. But no, I'll see them later on today. But they're even saying, like, man, this town is crazy. I took them over to Gamebridge before the madness kind of happened, and they were like, yeah, let's just soak it in now because in about, I think I might have went over there maybe 11 a.m. In about, 8-9 hours, it's going to get crazy. And it certainly was last night after winning that game in that fashion to survive and advance to a Game 7. And now it is what I love to call it, do or die. You're going to be a legend or you're going to be a GOAT.
Let's do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens Sunday night. Also want to hear from everybody else this morning. 239-1070 is the number to call. Let's get some reaction on Game 6. Thomas joins us next.
Thomas dropped off.
Thomas is gone. Don, Thomas, call us back. But Don, you have the floor.
Sir.
Go for it, my man. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I'm on my way back from Fort Wayne. It's one of those early 3:30 leaves, but I'll make it. I have several observations. Okay, McConnell, they need to keep him in because he's the only one that gets you the paint consistently. And did you guys notice after that challenge of a no call at all, he didn't even touch him on Turner, and they won it, that the refs kind of swallowed their whistles? Hopefully they'll do that in Game 7. And also, I think we can do this. We still haven't given them a shooting clinic like we know how we can do it. We still haven't given them a clinic. So hopefully Game 7, guys. Have a good day.
Appreciate the thoughts and the feedback. And look, one of the reasons they haven't had one of their classic shooting games is Oklahoma City's really good defensively, too.
Yeah, but I thought they were going to get there early on last night. After a while, Andrew Nembhard made a couple there early, and I was like, man, these guys are balling out. They built some distance there. But, yeah, shooting is certainly the great equalizer. Now, we shoot that well on the road into Game 7. I'm not so sure, but I love Don's energy right there. And, yeah, that call, no call, that overturned for Miles Turner, that was egregious. He didn't touch Isaiah Hartenstein. I was like, man, come on now.
And Hartenstein, it should, when Tony Bradley retaliated, it should have been a foul on Hartenstein for pushing Bradley in the back. Don, safe travels. I also thought Don made some great points up and down the line, really. All of those points I thought were really, really key. And that, I think, again, I didn't, labeling last night as simply 18,000 raucous people lifted you is not telling the accurate story, in my opinion. You threw something at them defensively much different, and that clearly rattled them. Sure, the environment contributes to it. Season high in turnovers, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, season high in turnovers. But now Oklahoma City's got to go back to the drawing board. There was one more thing left on the Pacers menu. You didn't realize they had that special, and they threw that at them, doubling Shai, not picking him up full court, but doubling him in the half court, keeping Nembhard a little bit more fresh. Same thing with Jalen Williams. How does OKC react to that? And do we get Scott Foster coming up Sunday night?
Game 7, Scott Foster. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk to some
Wait,
other
did
folks.
they announce it already?
Yeah. Coming up in a minute here, we'll tell you all about that. Stay on the line. We'll get right to you. Also, a reminder, go to 1075thefan.com. Register for our golf tournament that's there to support the great things that are going on at the Franciscan Foundation. They're making a meaningful impact, enjoying a great day on the golf course. It's all tied into one. You can hang out with all of us on Thursday, August 7th, 10 o'clock, shotgun start at the Legends Golf Club. Get clubs ready. Get ready for a memorable event. Go to 1075thefan.com and get your spot today. We'll celebrate all together all the great things that are still coming here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, and more of your phone calls coming up next.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
As we went to break, the topic was raised about Game 7 officials for Sunday night's game. Now, on ESPN radio this morning, they were speaking as if Scott Foster was getting the assignment. But we also know, James, you and I have been doing this for a while, so have you, Kevin. Typically, they don't announce who's going to officiate a game until 9 a.m. on game day for a lot of different reasons. I can't imagine, unless ESPN radio knows something we don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Foster is the ref in Game 7, but I don't know that it's been official yet.
Yeah, so just to clarify, I know we went to the break, and I was throwing the question out there. It has not been official. There is no ref assignments just yet publicly, so the Scott Foster narrative is not true until you find out on game day, which will be Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. But regardless of who's officiating the game, you got to go out there and play it. So we do know, as far as the lineups for the Pacers, it will include Tyrese Halliburton. And just your thoughts, Kevin, on this guy being perhaps a bit selfish in going out there, not in a bad way, but wanting to play. And then the candidness afterwards, Kevin, to say, yeah, I had talks with Rick, like, if I don't look like myself, take me out. But he looked, I would say, for the most part, like himself. But just even the willingness to have the conversation with your coach. I'm not going to my coach saying, yeah, if I'm not looking, the right, take me out. I probably wouldn't have that conversation.
Yeah, I thought, I go back to pregame yesterday, James, and Mark Dagnall had a great quote. He was asked about Halliburton and, whatever percentage he could be. And he goes, you don't underestimate great players in these situations. So when I heard that, I thought to myself, okay, they are going to keep the same sort of defensive approach that they have all series. And again, early on, Halliburton was certainly missing shots, but I didn't think it was, a clear and obvious he's moving at 50%, 60%, whatever you want to label it.
You like the process. You still like the process.
Right. And, the more he played, the better he looked, honestly, and the more the shots ended up going in. So, I thought in the first quarter, when Carlisle handled his minutes exactly how he normally would, put him in for 2 stints, then put him in there at the end of the first quarter, I thought to myself, man, there's not really a decision. Yeah, if he keeps on missing, maybe you might have to make a decision. But I didn't think you needed to bench him due to, again, laboring or favoring of any of that. And the fact that he played 23 minutes has to be music to the ears. And the fact that the Pacers didn't need any of their starters to play taxing minutes is huge for whatever, again, could be on the table coming up Sunday night.
All right, let's go to the phone lines, 239-1070. Some folks patiently standing by. Diane has been there for a minute. Thanks for joining us, Diane. Good morning. You are on the air. Go for it.
Good morning. I have a question for Kevin about the Speedo run.
Go.
After the Pacers win Game 7 in Oklahoma, are you going to do the run right after they win, or is it going to be the Monday morning show? Because I definitely want to be there to see that.
Well, thank you.
Ooh, yeah, you got you some
Diane.
fans,
Mark,
I was
Kevin.
going to say, you got
Yeah.
people.
Mark, you mind clipping that? I might need that just for my personal folder. Diane, thank you very much. You're not the only person that is called, shockingly, asking a similar question here on this Friday morning. By the way, that was not my wife, if anyone was curious.
Do you think they're there to admire your Adonis-like body, or they just want to see the spectacle?
By no means am I going to ask why you're there, just the fact that you're there.
Yeah.
We just ask people to show up.
Yeah, that was
be present
expertly brushed aside.
and be supportive. Diane, the plan is to debut said Speedo, give a jog around the circle the morning of the parade. So you know what? The parade will start at 11 a.m., noon, something like that. Our show obviously is 7 to 10 a.m. And I think, I don't know, what nice, 8 a.m. jog around the circle? You guys good with that?
Sure.
I'm good with it.
I'll be providing play-by-play.
Diane, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., we still need to get logistically in the, what the audio would look like. And, boy,
where the mic is going to go.
I probably need a fast, honestly.
Nipple clip.
Right?
And maybe, I don't know, sneak
Our
a
young guest in the studio, Owen, and you said that. He was like, yes, let's go.
Sneak a paper towel or two in there just to, for some self-assurance.
Oh,
but yes, Diane, we will keep you posted. But tentatively put it in your schedule. I can send you a calendar invite if you would like. Parade morning. We're thinking 8 or 9 a.m. That's kind of our general thought process.
We're good, streaky! Yes!
Right, Kevin?
Go, everybody. James, you don't know this, but out in the front of the building that faces the circle, we have a beautiful balcony out there. We may be broadcasting from out there. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, no. We need someone up in the business of Kevin Bowen. Someone needs to be running alongside him. Jeff needs to be working the handy cam.
I can wave to you guys from there. And Mark, did you ever define?
So you're saying he's like a pace car?
Kevin might be waving without his hands.
Mark, you were saying how many laps
might be
there should be. What were you saying? How many laps for how many points the Pacers win by?
If they win Game 7, whatever the point differential is that they win by, that's how many laps around the circle.
Boy, can you imagine if it would have been last?
When was the last time you ran?
That's a great question. If it would have been last night's game, thank the Lord the Thunder, cut into that deficit there late.
Let's go talk to Kelly next at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, guys. Love listening to you every day.
Thank you.
I wanted to bring up the video that they showed pregame of the Hoosier movie.
Yeah.
That was just a really exciting moment for me. I was at the premiere in the Indianapolis when they did that, and one of my friends is on the Pacer staff stats, so we've been sharing that moment for a long time. So
wow,
I'm
that was
just
cool.
Excited. I'm very excited. I've been going to Pacer games since 1983. I'm very excited. We had the whole family there last night. We are just ready for Game 7.
That's
Kelly,
awesome.
that is awesome. Thank you very much for the call. James Boyd, a couple things in-game arena I loved last night. I mentioned this yesterday. I love the added touch of the Miles Turner, Indy, what he did at the end of the Knicks series. I love that they've added that to the intro video. And then I don't know if this is what Kelly was referring to specifically. She said pregame. Maybe there was another scene pregame. But what was that? Was that fourth quarter last night where they showed the locker room scene with Gene Hackman?
I believe so.
And then it was the most unison clapping I've ever heard an arena doing in my life. I was so proud of the rhythm. It sounded beautiful. The mimicking of the clapping, even the Thunder fans that were still left in the building at that point had to acknowledge it. I saw Jake Query had a great video of he started filming it, and you look across the way, and Reggie Miller is standing up, knowing full well what's coming with that scene. So in-game entertainment, awesome last night. I love the former players in the Jumbotron. Honestly, my favorite might have been Steven Jackson. I think given everything that has gone into his Pacer career and the amount of remorse and regret he has expressed here in recent years, to get him a courtside seat, to single him out on the Jumbotron, I thought was really cool last night.
Pacers do everything first class, no question about that. He's been hanging on for a long time. I want to get to Thomas before we break again. Thomas, good morning. Thanks for being patient, but it's your turn.
Good morning. Sorry about the earlier. I had to get off the phone. I work for a living.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, me too. Trust me. Hey, I have a question. I don't know if this has ever happened before, but during a finals game, has there ever been a quarter that pretty much all the players for both teams on the floor were basically the bench behind the bench?
I mean, to Thomas's point, that only happens if you're blowing somebody out. So it is a good question. I'm sure it's probably happened before in the past, but very rarely does it happen on this stage where a game is decided long before the final horn in an NBA Finals setting. So it speaks to the level of play that the Pacers had last night, and it wasn't just three-point shooting. It wasn't just a hot night. To Kevin's point from earlier in the show, they changed some things up defensively, and they attacked the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I thought that SGA never looked comfortable. Jalen Williams, who had 40 in Game 5, looked very human in Game 6. And so this all kind of sets the table for a do-or-die Game 7, where both franchises are chasing their first NBA championship.
How about that? Last night, towards the end of the game, you had Johnny Furphy and James Johnson on the floor at the same time.
Didn't have James Johnson on the floor for
Not
long.
for long, yeah.
No.
But he was on the floor.
The way he slapped that guy on the back of the neck after he ran into him, I was just thinking.
Was he ejected for safety, do you think, for everybody else?
I don't think that's allowed in schools anymore.
Yeah.
Used to be maybe back in the day.
I think
the slap on the back of the neck?
I kept waiting for the referee to come over and make an announcement like, for the safety of everyone involved at Oklahoma City, we're going to ask this gentleman to leave the contest.
James,
now.
did it ever get it never got to the point for me, but did it ever get to the point with you there in the fourth where it's like, is Rick going to put maybe one starter back in? They semi cut it to like 18 or 16, and I'm like, wait a minute. Are any of them going to go back in?
Nah, I was of the mindset where once they got to like 26, I was like, oh, this is over.
Like the other Jalen Williams hit some deep threes. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Nah, I was never really concerned about that. My only thought was get everybody out.
No one turn an ankle.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is have something like that happen.
All right, we'll continue taking some of your feedback here in the next hour. We still got an hour of Victory Friday to go here as the Indiana Pacers get ready for a Game 7 of the NBA Finals coming up on Sunday night. And we will, as I like to say, James, we'll be bathing in it for the next 60 minutes right here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Rebound, Williams. His outlet pass stolen by McConnell. McConnell to the top. Toppin lets it fly and delivers a three.
What hands by McConnell there. He just throws one up in the air and is able to come up with that steal and Toppin back-to-back threes.
Nembhard has the ball, sends it right sideline to Halliburton. Out of the far corner, Neesmith goes back to Halliburton. Caruso stalking him on the right sideline. Here comes a long one from out beyond the hash mark. Halliburton's third three. Jalen Williams has his pass deflected. Halliburton steals it into the open floor. He got it to Siakam, who threw down the right-hand tomahawk. It's a 20-point lead. Down to 8 seconds to play. McConnell on the drive in the lane. Open man, and Toppin missed the three. Rebound punched outside. Shepard fires from the top. He hit it, and that's going to count. He hit a three as time expired.
Care to chime in?
Can you believe that? He shot that ball.
We're still waiting.
Boom, baby.
There you
go. Boom, boom.
There you go.
The lead is 30. McConnell in business, moving it left to right, drives it hard to the right baseline, pulls up from there, and hits another short jump shot.
I'm going to tell you what, he's put it in another gear these last couple of games. He's played so well for the Pacers here.
We just wanted to protect home court. You know, we didn't want to see these guys celebrate a championship on our home floor, backs against the wall, and we just responded.
How were you able to just battle through it tonight?
It's the finals. It's the finals. Like, you know, all of us got to give everything we have.
This is what it's all about. This is what you dream about growing up, this kind of opportunity.
We believe, you know, we got a lot of faith in this group. So take care of our bodies, get ready, and Game 7 NBA Finals, what more can you ask for?
Game 6 in the books. We move on to Game 7, but not quite yet. We're going to bask in this. We're going to bathe in it. We are going to wash ourselves in it. We're just going to – remember Bill Murray in Wild Things? When he gets the big settlement contract, and that's what we're doing with the Game 6 victory last night. And, of course, great job by Mark Dykman on the open there. You got to hear the voices of the great Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill, and, of course, Slick is always with them at all times and always in our minds. So glad that we were able to bring this to you on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And Game 7 will come your way Sunday night at 8, and you'll listen to it live right here on The Fan as well. And Kevin Bowen, I want to take you out of professional mode for a minute. You've been able to go to these NBA Finals games, and again, as a young man who was born and raised here in Indianapolis, and now you're raising your own family here, and the Pacers and the Colts have been such a big part of your life, your entire life. Like, how's this been for you? I'm so happy for you to be able to experience this, man.
What was that body motion? I was like, what the heck is going on?
Because it's just, as a sports fan, there's nothing better than when your team gets to the precipice there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've said this a few times throughout this Pacer playoff run, but to me, there's nothing that this city or state wants more than a Pacer title. I think it's...
I have a question about that.
I think part of it might be a little bit generational. You know, when you think about the Colts moved here in 84. So, you know, if you are someone of my age, you know, your parents probably didn't grow up Colts fans. Like, that's just not how, you know, John's talked about this before. You know, he kind of grew up a Bears fan. So, whereas the Pacers, you had rich history in the ABA. Slick Leonard was an iconic figure. And, you know, when you consider that, it's a little bit more passed down, I guess. You know, we just had the caller, what was it, Kelly? You know, season ticket holder since 83. You know, like those sorts of calls. And I get the Colts moved here in 84. And, you know, I also think something with the Pacers is the near misses. The great teams running into Michael. The great teams running into LeBron. You know, that aspect of it. I don't know if it's Peyton Manning, New England Patriot, agonizing level that 06 run was. But from a franchise standpoint, I think that plays into it. And then with this current iteration, it's a combination of factors. I think for me, this wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't supposed to happen 2 months ago. 4 seeds don't get on runs in the NBA. And yet here the Pacers are on the brink of it. It is a team that wins. That obviously checks the box. It's a team that's entertaining. For some people, that's an important check of the box. And it's a team that is very likable. And so I think when you add up all of that, the history of the Pacers franchise, this current team as well, to me, there would be nothing like a parade if indeed that were to happen. So I think when you add up all of it, it's why so many people are, frankly, getting emotional about this run. And to me, it's different than any other title that this city or the state could have.
So I have a question, and this is from Dion W. in the YouTube chat. Is Game 7 the biggest Indianapolis sports game in history?
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, the 06 AFC title game, given the opponent, I think probably falls on just a slightly higher scale. But the fact that you are getting a 48-minute opportunity and you've never gotten that in the history of your franchise for this particularly, for a title, boy, it's awfully close. I just think the combination of factors in your own city, Brady, how the game played out, hindsight is 2020, but that probably plays into it, James, which I know is kind of copping out a little bit there.
What I will say,
ask
though,
him again Tuesday morning or Monday
Seriously.
morning.
What I will say, though, about Game 7 in particular, it is sort of that football feel of there is no tomorrow. One team is moving on, one team's holding the trophy, one team is not. So there is a Super Bowl aspect to it that you don't normally get because most series don't go to a Game 7. And this is for everything. And like I said earlier in the show, as a writer, as a fan of the sport, as someone who just consumes sports ever since I was a kid, your legacies are built off Game 7s and championships and things like that. I mean, everyone here loves Reggie Miller. He would probably be considered a greater player in the national or global lexicon or whatever if he had won one. And it just changes things. If you win a championship, if you get just one, that changes so much for you, your franchise, your legacy, all those things. And so that's what they're chasing, man. And I wrote a piece, I want to say a couple weeks ago on Tyrese. This is an opportunity for him to cement himself in Indiana lore. He's done it so far. I can't discredit the game winners and the run they've been on the last 2 years, really, of building this thing. But if they were to win a championship, the way we look at the Halliburton trade will change a lot. Not only just for this franchise, but just NBA history. I mean, to say you traded for a guy that won you a championship, I mean, that is hard to say. You don't say that very often. And I think if they're able to pull this off, one of the greatest compliments I can give Halliburton, and probably Siakam to a degree, but really Halliburton, it's going to be hard to tell that story and say, oh, wait a second, he wasn't drafted here. Because he feels like our own to this point.
Yeah, and I would just say one more thing to add to kind of, Jeff, that point you started off the segment with. And I think James is a great example of it. Like, to me, the in 49 states is just basketball, but this is Indiana. As, whatever, Hollywoody or a little bit of a movie script as that sound, I really do think it's real. And again, I'm heavily biased as a 35-year-old that's called Indiana home for his entire life. But, like, for the most part, I think I speak for the vast majority of people in the state, you're like 1 to 2 degrees of separation from the rich history of basketball in the state. And James, you have said this before, like your love language is Indiana high school basketball.
Yeah.
A guy that's not even born here in this state and has only lived here for, X amount of years. So I think just speaks to, I get the NFL's king and numbers wise.
Yeah.
The NFL is this, the NFL is that. And again, Colts Patriots in that 06, it was huge. And yes, that is probably the biggest singular game. But having said all of that, just the pure joy. And I think it's just like that there's a family aspect to it. There's a generational aspect of, I grew up with my dad telling me stories about the ABA Pacers. And before I met Slick Leonard at Plum Creek Golf Course working there, it was, no, this is about Slick and your Aunt Betsy, this. And like all of these things about, we felt a part of those ABA Pacers. I think that generational pull to it is probably why I think that scene, whenever it might be next week, will be so electric.
You know what? I think even just, and I put this in my story when I was referencing Tyrese's run and the Pacers' run and the Hoosier-like feel. I mean, somebody get Bobby Plump on a plane to OKC. I mean, this is what it feels like. This feels like, Milan against Muncie Central, us against the world, David versus Goliath, and we got a shot to make history. And I was not drinking the Kool-Aid when I first moved here, arrogant and young, and I love my Illinois basketball too. I will still argue that the talent-wise, it's up there, but the environment, no, it is different here. You go to high school games, and people live and die with these teams, and it's packed out. And one of my favorite things to do, seriously, when basketball season rolls around, check the schedule, and I do it probably every couple of days. Shout out to John Harrell, who makes great content for all of us. I don't think a high school reporter could survive in this state without John Harrell. But I'm on his site every day, and I'll find some random game to go to, and there will be somebody else who is just like me, no kid on the team, didn't go to school there, might not have grown up there. They want to see good basketball, and they want to be in an environment where people care about it. And I think the biggest thing I can kind of give to encapsulate how much they love basketball here is it was sold out last night for, obviously, a finals game, but it was just as packed a couple months ago for the boys' Class 4A state championship. You couldn't get a ticket. And so that's what you're feeling, and that's what I think brings the state together. So to, have a moment like this, a Game 7 on the road against the world, your entire state is watching. I'm excited for it.
All right, before we get back to the phone lines real quick, we have an answer for one of your questions earlier today, JB.
Well,
Scotty has checked in. He says he can find no instance of a team losing a playoff game by 40 or more points and going on to win the NBA championship in the same postseason. The 22 Warriors lost to Houston by 39 in a Western Conference semifinal game and won the title. 21 Bucks lost to the Nets by 39 in an Eastern Conference semifinal game. The Mavericks' only win in last year's finals with Boston was a 38-point victory in Game 4.
Yeah, 40 points is a lot. Now, does it matter? No, not at all. But I think it's just an interesting stat. I do think that OKC will be better in Game 7. And for the most part, I know last night was a blowout. That was the most lopsided game in the series. But these games have been tight. And I expect it to be the same thing in Game 7 because of the pressure and the moment. And really, they're even. I believe somebody put it out there on our team at The Athletic. I want to say OKC has outscored the Pacers throughout the first 6 games of the series like 665 to 662. Like they're right there dead even throughout these first 6 games. In Game 7, you can't be even. This isn't a sport where you can end in a tie. There's got to be a winner, got to be a loser, and you certainly want to be on the right side of that. I think Benedict Mathurin said it best. This was a couple games ago, but I want to make sure the dream ends well. Like I'm in the dream, I'm living the dream, but it's got to end well.
Yeah, a couple questions I have for Game 7. Can you flip the script on the turnovers down there? The turnovers down there have been a major issue in all 3 of those games. Last night, it was a change in a total different direction for both teams. Pacers had their fewest turnover in 11 playoff games last night, and the Thunder had their season high. The Thunder played 103 games, and they had their season high in turnovers last night. So that, I think, is priority number 1. And as I've said all along, a lot of people, and I get why they would do this. They point to last night and say, that's the home environment lifting you up. Go back to the 2000 NBA Finals. Pacers on the brink of elimination. They beat the Lakers by 30-something inside of Conseco Fieldhouse, and then boom, you go out to the Staples Center for Game 6 and you lose. But last night, the Pacers threw a different defensive wrinkle at the Thunder. They did not pick up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander full court. They, I think, just put more energy, frankly, into the half court and said, you know what? We're going to sit back. Once Shai crosses midcourt, that's when we're going to attack, not create as much advantage situations for the Thunder. And when Shai drives and Jalen Williams drives, and they've been so effective as straight-line drivers in the series, that's when we will double. And we will force the others of Oklahoma City to try and beat us. And they did not at all. And so I think that schematic wrinkle is different than simply just, the home floor, boom, all of a sudden you just kind of rise with that natural atmosphere. That is something that Mark Dagnall and that staff are going to have to figure out because the Pacers did something very different defensively, and it worked. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a season-high 8 turnovers last night.
Yeah, it meant a 108-91 victory. Let's go to the phone lines, 239-1070. Good Friday morning, Martin. How are you doing today?
Kevin Bowen is off the mat. I called you on Monday, man. You had that 2-day hangover going. You sound like a different man.
Martin, can you imagine if they would have finished off Game 4 and that would have been for the title last night?
You think I didn't say that last night when I was in the arena? Yeah. So, my wife, Johnny Furphy fan, and I go, if Johnny Furphy gets in, we're effed. And she goes, or we're winning by a lot. And I said, yeah, okay, or we're winning by a lot. Hey, I want to throw an analogy out there to you guys because I've seen this movie before. I'm the guy that called it on Monday, so they're losing Game 5, winning Game 6, going to win in 7. And KB, you said they're going to, I got the script already written. So I'm 39 years old, and I've spent half my life between St. Louis and Indiana. The St. Louis Blues in 2019, worst record in the league on New Year's Day. They get hot, they win the whole thing. Most importantly, they win Game 7 on the road in Boston, which no one thought was possible. They go in, they do it, and the Pacers are going to OKC, and they're coming back with that trophy. I'm going to listen to you guys for Victory Monday, and I'll see you boys at the parade.
Martin, thank you, brother.
That is some conviction right there.
Did I hear Eddie White correct? All of the ABA titles were won on the road for the Pacers?
Ooh, I'll have to go and check that. I did not hear him say that.
If you want to believe in a little bit of that. You know, we've talked about this throughout the Pacer playoff run. They've turned their fan base into believers. I've used the analogy numerous times. You guys have heard it. The Pacers get the big eighth inning hit. They get out of the, bases loaded jam. They pick up the third. They find Travis Kelce and pick up the big third down to keep the game alive. I don't believe this necessarily in sports, but it feels like a team of destiny. I'm not one that I'm not a superstitious sports fan. I'm not that. But the Pacers, the 2024-2025 Indiana Pacers have made me pause with that thought. It feels like a team of destiny. It felt like the movie script needed one more scene. Hey, how about the star player getting hurt? How about that questionable storyline? Let's add 20 minutes to the end of this movie.
It's unreal.
You know who's superstitious? In the throes of having a fever and trying to sleep and the aches and the pains, I get a text out of nowhere from Mark Dykton go, I need the keys to your office so I can go upstairs and burn your jersey.
No, yeah, you wore it and they lost 2 games.
No, they won a game. 1-1 when I've worn
They lost the most recent 2 up until Game 6 last night.
Yeah, gotta burn it.
Boys, they are undefeated when this.
Yep.
Look how he pulled it out.
Speedo, baby. Look at that thing.
Man.
Kevin's Speedo has countered Jeff's jersey.
Diane, if you're listening on the YouTube chat, here's the Speedo.
I was about to say, dang, man, take me out to dinner first. Goodness.
Looks absolutely glorious. It'll be ironed and ready to go. Martin, you can see the Speedo next week. Thank you for the call.
Sounds like she wanted to see it on you, not just on camera.
You know what?
I will say,
I appreciate Diane's call.
I did check this, by the way. Eddie White is correct.
Yeah,
the
Scotty
3
just checked in,
ABA
too.
championships are won on the road.
Yep.
Can you get your first NBA one in the same fashion?
There we go.
Mark, let's get a secondary ticket market update.
Well, he says
on the other side here, if you don't mind, for Game 7.
Scotty did say, though, every championship series, ABA and NBA, the Pacers have been in has ended on the road, one way or the other. So,
wow, okay.
How about that? Looking for a win in Game 7. Real quickly, too, JJ's up next here on the Fan Morning Show. Good morning, JJ. You got any weird superstitions? Anything like that?
No, not really. The game that the Pacers lost when they lost to Oklahoma, my neighbor, he watches it in his basement. And he said I can't come over until the series is done. That's about it. So he's a little superstitious on that part.
I got it.
But I just got 3 quick things. One, Kevin, will there be a PBR Monday on a win? Crack a can.
Boy, JJ,
2,
man.
Okay. 2, they called a consistent game and not falling for that bait foul. Hopefully they can do the same thing Sunday night. And 3, I was telling my daughter this. We go to all the games and stuff. We watch all the games wherever they're played. I told her this will be a lifelong curtain call for me. I can rest easy if the Pacers win, because we'll have the Pacers win. Fever has won the WNBA championship. The Colts have won the Super Bowl, and of course, our beloved Cubs has won the World Series in my lifetime. Thank you very much.
It's good to hear from you. Love it. Oh, by the way, one of our longtime
listeners.
listeners.
3 outstanding points. As much as I hate the Cubs, JJ, wonderful. And I didn't even think about the beer on Monday, but that's now been jotted down.
I want people handing you beer and water while you make your jog around.
Chariots of Fire playing in the background.
Yeah.
By the
Pacers
way,
flag on your shoulders. Aluminum foil blanket waiting for you when you finish. I have great visions of what could be.
You're producing right now, Mark.
Man,
Keep doing
Mark's
that.
vivid imagery is
Keep doing
outstanding.
that. Longtime listener Q says, Jeff, trying to call, but the lines are busy. Just knowing my family Pacers going to a Game 7 is huge. We've been diehard since the 80s, from having Boomer at birthday parties, going to MSA after playoff victories. This is just going to be just the atmosphere for Game 7 is going to be lit. And if this team can somehow pull it off, wow. Just wow.
This is for everything. And it does feel kind of like a movie. I feel like we're like in the Avengers or something. You're trying to take down Thanos. Because you hear the quotes from these players, and it is like, if I win this, I can like float to heaven. If I lose this, I might never come outside again. And that is the thrill of sports. And I thought Tyrese Halliburton, as he always does, he has this great way of breaking the fourth wall. Because usually, for those who are not familiar with it, when you're a journalist and you ask a question to an athlete, you're used to some of these cliche answers, the most important game is the next one. And, this moment, we can't get too caught up into it. But he was like, yeah, no, it's going to be hard. He was like, because when I go home, I'm going to hear about how great we played or the opportunity we have. And I'm going to hear about playing through this injury. On the other side, I'm going to hear about how if we don't win this, it's all over. I mean, he was just saying it is very hard to kind of stay in the moment, but you have to kind of trick your own mind into thinking this isn't a Game 7. This isn't for everything. Like, this is just another game where we got to go out there and play like ourselves. And I think that there's some balance to it. That's a hard thing to do. So I would even expect, early on, I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if we saw like an earlier timeout from Rick Carlisle, not because of what OKC is doing, but because you might have so much adrenaline pumping through your body that you get gassed sooner than normal because you're so amped up for this game. And so for me, the first 2 or 3 minutes might look bad. People kind of forget how it was. The Golden State and Cavs Game 7. It was not necessarily a good game.
No, that's a great point.
But the stakes of it was kind of a slugfest. But because of that, you got to the end, you got a great finish, and I would expect something similar to that perhaps on Sunday in OKC.
You know how you don't get gassed in Game 7 right out of the gate? Have TJ McConnell pack all the lunches. Just bring the Tupperware for everybody.
Yeah, whatever he's
lunch.
eating, man, he's having, what they call them, superfoods and all that. He's got his protein. He's got everything.
I like to think it's just good old-fashioned in-your-kitchen spaghetti that he brought in his Tupperware, man.
It looks like
SpaghettiOs.
Yeah. All right, let's check it down very quickly here.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This one's going to go quick. Game 6 goes to the Indiana Pacers. Last night at Gainbridge, they force a Game 7 Sunday night in Oklahoma City for all the marbles. Obi Toppin led the way with 20 points. Andrew Nembhard getting it done on both ends of the floor. 17 points. Terrific defense on SGA. Pascal Siakam again, 16 points, 13 boards, all of them timely. Tyrese Halliburton playing on an injured calf, 14 points, and the Pacers come up with everything they needed to last night in an easy rest your starters at the end of the game kind of victory.
Yeah, it's on now, though, as you know. Kevin, will you be standing for the entire game as you watch it on Sunday?
Boy, that's a great point. I know. Oftentimes they get hands on the knees for big third downs. Yeah. But the thing is, Matty Bone's been the loudest bone in the household by far.
Respect.
This, so, and the upstairs TV is about 2 seconds ahead of the downstairs.
Oh, you got to be careful.
I mean, you want to talk about an issue.
Yeah.
These Halliburton game winners, I mean, it's been unbelievable. She's screaming, as he's, crossing half court for game 1.
Yeah. Okay, so can I step in here and say one TV for Game 7?
Got to, right?
Yeah. One TV. You can't be spoiling Game 7.
Got to. Does Halliburton have one more in him?
I think he does.
Is that the ultimate?
Many more.
Is that the ultimate movie scene?
Yeah.
No, seriously.
One more for him.
The hobbled star makes the shot to win it all.
Pick me a winner,
on
Jimmy.
the road. But that's the thing, though. In all seriousness, if you're OKC, you're terrified if it's tied or close late.
You're
one
sprinting
game.
5 defenders at Halliburton.
I seriously, we talked about this. I think you brought this up. I would absolutely double this guy late in the game. If Obi Toppin makes a game-winning three, and he makes the biggest shot in Pacers history.
Right. Yeah, Nemhard from the left wing.
I live with that. I cannot let Tyrese Halliburton exercise some demons on me. Oh, no.
Pascal Siakam is sitting right over there on the wing, too.
Don't let him score either. If you're okay, see, he's been here before, too.
All right. Also last night, Indiana Fever very late playing in San Francisco, losing at Golden State 88-77. Caitlin Clark held to just 11 points. They will play again Sunday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon at Las Vegas. That is your check down, more phone calls, and more basking in the afterglow. Next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
7-5 The Fan.
Jogo segue com 18 pontos de vantagem. Halliburton tenta rouba a bola, faz o passe com Siakam! Pascal! Siakam volta o game, Bridgefield, House abaixo! 20 de vantagem para o Indiana Pacers! Vibra, barulho com o Andrew Nembhard. Bate bola, gasta o tempo. Acha o Siakam contra o Caruso, gira, remessa e ela cai! Minha nossa! E ela cai! Pascal Siakam! Com que moral, Indiana Pacers vai pro intervalo! 64-42!
I'm guessing that's the end of the first half, Pascal Siakam. That may have been the entire halftime show for those guys right there.
Got me out of my seat here. Let's go. I'm ready to get down to my defensive stance and lock up.
So we have an idea. We were discussing whether or not if Kevin wears the Speedo and the Pacers do get a win, would there be any shaving of like the insignia into your chest hair or something like that? And my thought was, let's put the Pacers P on one side of your chest and the Fat Jordan on the other side, Kevin.
Shout out to Owen in studio. Wonderful on the suggestion there. I had to actually look down my shirt to see what my chest hair was looking like. I think I can make the P look decent.
No Fat Jordan on the other side.
And we're
though?
talking about the P on the chest, just
Yeah.
to be very clear here. Trust me, the P down there ain't gonna look good at all. In that Speedo. So, yeah, just to paint a little bit more vivid imagery for you. Mark, that you said Brazilian broadcast there.
Awesome.
I went up to the Kroger, what do they call it? Kroger
Sky Deck?
Loft, Sky Deck.
Yeah.
For the start of Game 3. I did it for the start of the All-Star Game, too. I just kind of like that, just, massive overhead shot to, document something that obviously doesn't happen very often. I cannot believe how many international broadcasts there are up there. I mean, there have to be 10, 12 different broadcasts going on up there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have Mike Breen and company courtside. I assume you have Mark Boyle in his normal club level. I assume the Thunder are at that spot as well. But if you go all the way to that Kroger Loft, it's like ESPN Latvia, ESPN China, Sky Sports, ESPN Brazil. I've been blown away by the amount of international media and the broadcast rights that they also get. Like James, for example, yesterday or Wednesday after practice, Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton both left the podium. They both went back on the floor and did one-on-ones with, I guess, their version of Lisa Salters or I don't know how you would describe it, but it's like, what? The international media blows me away. Some of their questions are outrageous in the press conference.
Were you there for pregame with Mark Dagnall?
Tell this story. I was sitting in the back of the room.
Awesome.
Sitting next to Chris Mannix. He about had an aneurysm when he heard this question.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard that question, I was like, Pacers are going to win this going away.
So some international media member, he goes, hey, Mark, how do you plan on celebrating tonight if you win? Would you rather, win on the road or win at home in front of your own fans? And then he asks about, I believe, Nikola Topic, who is one of their international players on their roster, who is a bottom of the roster guy, and no one's asking about him in the finals. So, yeah, Mark Dagnall did not take the bait. He was like, I'll answer your last question about one of our players.
I'll skip right over the first. It
got an entire roar out of the room when Mark was like, yeah. I think he said something like, well, you're hitting the whole spectrum here or something like that. And I was like, wow, that takes some boldness. And honestly, can that guy come back and, ask that same question again and say, hey, you're at home. Do you want to win at home? And, the international media is awesome. It was really cool to see. I mean, I saw, I want to say Richard Jefferson. Shout out to my guy, Brad Brown. He had me on for pregame with WRTV. He had a chance to talk to Richard Jefferson on his show. And so a lot of these people are very gracious with their time. And, a lot of it, I would say from the Pacers perspective, you want to be talking about a win after Game 7.
$1,000. $1,042.
Get in the door.
Cheapest ticket. That is section 330 coming up.
I ain't gonna lie.
For Sunday night. That is a little cheaper than I would have guessed.
Yeah, that's.
And the Thunder do have
sounds
2,000 people on their season ticket waiting list, as absurd as that sounds. So, yeah, 1,042 on the secondary ticket market I'm seeing here as the cheapest ticket.
Hey, by the way, I know we were talking about, hey, this is like a movie for the Pacers and something has to be made off of this. Keep in mind, the Netflix Starting Five documentary has been following Tyrese Halliburton all season, one of the other players in that group of five, SGA. So we're going to see some great theater.
You'll see both sides of it.
Yeah, we'll see some agony. We'll see some joy. For the Pacers' purposes, you want it to be the latter. You want it to be the joy and the happiness and the glory. But either way, we're going to get some great behind-the-scenes footage from that. I believe the other three players involved in this Netflix Starting Five series for this season, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Jaylen Brown. But obviously, the two biggest stars and the biggest content-wise when it comes to just people want to see what happens are those two, SGA, the MVP on one side, and the underdog, the challenger, Tyrese Halliburton, who, if they win this championship, he has a chance to take the biggest victory lap you'll probably ever see. And one thing I do love about when players win championships, not necessarily when they lose because they're not as candid, when you win, all of the cliches are finally put to bed. You can finally ask a guy, how good does it feel to win this and tell you-know-who or this person, bleep, bleep, bleep. And they'll usually give you the bleep, bleep, bleep version in front of a mic, which I always love.
I can't wait. It's going to be a long weekend. There's no question about that. Kenny's up next at 239-1070. He's been patient about waiting with the ton of phone calls we've gotten today. Kenny, you're finally on. Make it count, my man. Welcome to the show.
I plan on making it count. Nobody's talking about my dude, number 9, man. What's going on? He kicked some major rear end last night. I'm pulling a Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about him quite a bit this morning.
Yeah.
Kenny,
Well, I must have been
Kenny, dial
sleeping
up the
that time
podcast, brother. We've been all over TJ McConnell. I guess to say it again. First off, we are very curious what was in the Tupperware. Spaghetti and vodka sauce, I believe, is what Ashley chimed in with here. Her eye might be better than mine, so I'll take her word for it. And again, the second quarter, like when the game got to be that big of a blowout, I'm like, damn, I feel bad a little bit for TJ because we might forget the second quarter. I mean, that was like a 1-point game. The Pacers offense had a very weird first quarter. Bad start, huge flurry in the middle, great finish. And then McConnell as a scorer. And as I said earlier, guys, it almost was like he was looking at Rick Carlisle with double birds saying, you shouldn't have benched me in game 5.
Maybe. Kenny, I want to ask you real quick here. Oh, he just dropped off? I did want to ask, from a fan base, what particular part of his game do these people gravitate towards the most? Is it the fact that he hypes up the crowd? Is it the fact that he looks like he could be your next door neighbor?
All of it.
Is it the fact that he
dives on the floor? Yeah.
He does all of the little things. I mean, this guy was undrafted. He's 10 years into his NBA career. He's 33. He's not a young guy. And he is making it happen in the NBA Finals. It is truly one of the most remarkable stories you'll probably see in the sport.
And he's so fun to watch.
Yeah. He's great to watch, fun to watch if he's on your team. But, boy, I would hate him. If I'm OKC, I don't want to see him in a Game 7 because he can flip a game.
Yeah, it was kind of like they put Casey Wallace on him, and I think that was the thought process of, all right, this is kind of your assignment. I mean, he cooked Casey Wallace right away. And last night, he had that scoring flurry early in the second. He also had an offensive rebound and got on the floor for a loose ball that was just just kind of vintage him, all of it. And again, he's been a guy that he will be fearless on the road in Game 7. And if you're going to pull that off on the road, like two guys that come off the bench that have been fearless on the road so far for you, him and Obi Toppin. And, you would think Mathurin will probably be fearless as well. That can go two ways. But, that is, I think, an encouraging sign for what, most teams get in those settings. They're like, oh, boy, I don't know. I trust 8 at home. I trust 6 now. It's like, well, no, I think the Pacers feel like they trust, 8 or 9 wherever the game's played.
I love it. Pete, you're up next here at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Pete is gone. I'll
Matt
tell you what
or
we'll
Will,
do.
who you want to go
Let's
to?
go to Matt real quick before we take a break. Matt, you are on the air.
How we doing, gentlemen?
Good, man. Talk to me.
Good. So I was saying this because we put on my call. I'm a huge Cubs fan, but if the Pacers pull this off, being this is my hometown, this would easily rank number 2 for championships in my lifetime. It would be better than the Cubs, even though we waited so many years. It's just so to feel the city, feel the energy.
Is that number 2 behind the Colts?
No. This is Matt Dowdy. My son was on the Ben Davis team a couple years ago. That'll always be number 1.
Got it. Well, sure, family. certainly on that front. Okay,
So
I got you.
Professional-wise, this will be number one because much as I love the Cubs, I got a son named Wrigley. To feel the energy in the city the last couple months during the whole playoffs, it's just been amazing. So.
Yep, it's all good stuff. And
Hope Zane as well, Matt. Thank you for the call.
We're all sharing it with you today. Quick timeout. We'll finish up strong in a moment at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we just got a couple of minutes before we move along here. By the way, Fast Fingers, first one that calls in and tells Mark they want these tickets. 4 of them to go see is 4, right? Family 4-pack to go see Las Vegas and the Indy 11 tomorrow night at Carroll Stadium. Give us a call now, 239-1070. And we have time for one more call. Mark, who should we put on there? Will, you're up, and make it count because you're going to cap it off today.
Okay, real quick. I am third-generation season ticket holder. My grandparents went to the Coliseum. My son is working the ESPN, working the games. Last night, I think everybody, what you guys were saying is correct. But I think what people are missing, if you watched the game last night, if you were there, Miles Turner, it doesn't look like anything in the box score, but the way he's helping out, the way he's boxing out and letting those other guys get rebounds, pushing people, he's working hard. I just wanted to give a shout-out to Miles because nobody's saying it. He's doing all the dirty work, and nobody ever see it, but he's out there working hard, getting block shots, getting people out the way, setting great picks. He's doing it all.
I'm not going to disagree with you because one of the things I know, the shot has not been there. We've talked about that. He was sick earlier in the series. But his effort has never been questioned.
No, certainly not. Longest senior Pacer, he wants it just as bad as anybody else. My only ask, and I believe a lot of Pacers fans would ask the same thing, is can you make a few threes in Game 7 to get him over the top?
Yeah, I would add, too. I thought he had a couple early on. I thought he had a couple of rebounds in traffic to Will's point. I'm like, damn, that was Miles?
Yep.
I'm kind of not used to that, but I could not agree more, James. It is you're going to need a couple Turner threes, I think, to get this done on the road.
It's everything but that. It's like, dude, that's a little thing.
And, boy, some of these aren't even sniffing the rim, too.
Because he had more great block shots,
Exactly, yep. But if he knocked down a couple threes, and all he has to do is just see one go through. That top of the three key, or top of the key 3 is Miles' shot. So if he knocks that down, you could be looking at a good outcome in Game 7.
Real quick before we get out of here, we got a little bit more minute left. Pacers get a championship on Sunday. What are we doing? What, we calling a championship on Sunday, or the Thunder get it done?
I'll go first. I know I switched to Pacers in 6 after the 1-game-1. My original thought was Thunder in 7. I come from the James Boyd school of thought. You stick with your pick. So
yeah. I had said Pacers as well. I'm going to stick with that.
Pacers, get it done.
All right, so we're 2-2 splitting right here.
All
well,
right.
I will say I would not be obviously upset if the Pacers win. I mean,
no,
it's good for the city.
They got one more miracle in them.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Very quickly, too, our Jiffy Lube stat of the day brought to you by Jiffy Lube, and not only America's, but Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985. After that slow start when they were down 10-2, Pacers outscored the Thunder 68-32 over the next 24 minutes.
That's good basketball.
That's great.
You'll win. Oftentimes, if you do that, you'll win.
Longest weekend of our lives, so it begins.
Let's go. Jake Query comes your way at noon. JMV at 3. Have a great Victory Friday.